There it is. Hi. Good evening, everyone. I'm calling to order the Housing Authority of the City of Salem for Monday, August 25th, 2025. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Commissioner Tigan?
Present.
Commissioner Matthews?
Here.
Vice Chair Gwynn?
Here.
Commissioner Brown?
Present.
Commissioner Vang?
Here.
Commissioner Nordyke?
Here.
Commissioner Varney?
Here.
Resident Commissioner Villegas?
Here.
Chair Nishioka?
I'm here. Thank you. All right. I would like to ask Councilor Vang, would you like to start us in the Pledge of Allegiance?
Of course.
Thank you. All right. Vice Chair Gwynn, are there any additions or deletions?
There are none.
Thank you. City Attorney, are there any public comments? No, no public comments. So we are now to the consent calendar for the Housing Authority. Might there be a motion?
I move approval of the consent calendar consisting of the minutes from the July 28, 2025 meeting.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
It's been moved by Vice Chair Gwynn and seconded by Member Varney. Will the recorder, or are any questions? Will the recorder please call the roll?
Vice Chair Gwynn?
Aye.
Commissioner Brown?
Aye.
Commissioner Vang?
Aye.
Commissioner Nordyke?
Aye.
Commissioner Varney?
Aye.
Commissioner Tigan?
Aye.
Commissioner Matthews?
Aye.
Resident Commissioner Villegas?
Aye.
Chair Nishioka?
Aye. Thank you. Now we've already talked about the minutes and you've discussed it, so there's no action items, there's no resolutions, no public hearings, no special orders of business, so we are down to information reports, and I believe we have Ms. Nicole Utes to come and review those.
Good evening, I'm Nicole Utes. I'm the Director of Housing for Salem Housing Authority. And tonight, we wanted to take a special note that the PMR has additional success stories, different stories. We actually took a little bit of effort from our staff and wanted to really reach out as to what is the mission to them, and those stories are provided in the PMR for you all to read. So you'll see a little different format where we're seeing great success in them wanting to be involved in helping us write the program management report and what they do to help the individuals, help them to succeed. I also wanted to take a special attention to our family self-sufficiency program. We're almost fully occupied at 145 out of 150 occupants. And we have over $30,000 in escrows that are continuing to build. That program seems to be thriving a lot. We have 2 new staff members that are running that program and working really hard as a team to really gain the attraction of the family self-sufficiency program, and we're excited to see that initiative really taking off. The other aspect was wanted to note that in our program management report under property management, you'll see that our new property manager noted in our permanent supportive housing that at the time of this, we had currently 20 vacancies in our permanent supportive housing. At any given time, that's a revolving number. Presently now, there's only 12 at this time. But we wanted to give you a little data and background on that. Out of the 14 listed vacant units at Equina Hall, the following data was learned. 6 of those are evictions for failure to comply with terms of lease that had to go to sheriff lockout. In the process of that, it took 4 to 6 months to fully engage through that process. One eviction was related to tenant-caused damage through fire, and one moved in lieu of eviction. 4 happily transferred to our Section 8 program. So we bring great pride when we can move them out of permanent supportive housing into permanent solutions such as Section 8 voucher. 1 transferred to assisted living, which was a more suitable living environment for the individual, and unfortunately 1 was deceased. Out of the evictions at Uquina Hall, 100% of those units failed to cooperate or participate in eviction prevention services. I wanted to note that we take special attention and time in making sure that we provide eviction prevention services to all those individuals that do happen to fall under eviction or termination from our program. The average turnover for those units neared $10,000 in additional legal fees, unpaid rents, damages to the unit, or failure to pay utilities. Since August of 2024, there have been 14 total evictions from Uquina Hall out of the 51 units. And a little bit about the Housing First model. Housing First is a homeless intervention approach that prioritizes providing permanent housing to people experiencing homeless as a first step without requiring preconditions such as sobriety, employment, or participation in treatment programs. It provides immediate access to housing, no preconditions, consumer choice, and self-determination. It's recovery-oriented, and it provides individualized support. These supports are not required to participate in our permanent supportive housing. Housing First is highly effective for many, especially those with chronic homelessness. It does not work in every case or for every individual. Often it's noted that it could be a mismatch between housing and the needs of the individual, which is often what we find, is that they may need a higher level of care than what we can provide at our permanent supportive housing. That often we are seeing more and more frequently because there's a lack of Medicaid-assisted units in our area. And so it's helping us to determine where some of those gaps are that we can hopefully help in finding solutions, working with collaborative partners. But there's definitely a gap in systems for adult foster care and for the Medicaid-assisted units. So again, this may not have been the right solution for that individual. And then lack of individualized care. People with complex trauma, cognitive impairments, or behavioral issues may need tailored intervention that cannot be provided in a basic Housing First program. So we wanted to give you a little explanation as to those 20 units that are noted in our program management report, and I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you very much. Does anyone have any questions? Doesn't look like it. I'm going to say thank you for all of your efforts. Housing First can be very effective, but I can see where you can find situations where it's maybe not the right, some individuals with what you are able to offer. I also wanted to note that I certainly love the glossary, because even though we know these terms, we've heard these terms, the glossary and reviewing of it is really helpful so that when you speak to your programs, it gives us a reminder of what that is exactly. So thank you for including that in this report.
Yes, definitely. We understand we speak a whole different language at our office.
And I'm still learning it.
Thank you.
Oh, I think we have a question by Member Brown.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Director, thank you. This was great. I appreciate it, especially the glossary. It's good to know those terms. You referenced, I'm not exactly sure what page it is, but you referenced it in your highlights and activities. Mm-hmm. And you say that Arches continues to do a great job with their food share program. And as of July 31st, there's a huge donation day, and Arches' staff, they distributed the food. Are there any other partners you have besides Arches that helps in that effort, or just Arches does it all by themselves?
That section is actually for permanent supportive housing, and Arches is the main supportive service provider, and their team takes the lead on acquiring donations. I can't tell you where all the donations come from. They come from multiple different sources, and we're very thankful for the donations they receive. even the almost truckload of popsicles that we got one day, it really did put a smile on everybody's face. And we're very thankful because there is some significant food instability in the communities.
Right, and that's what I was thinking, because obviously, with my other hat on as a policy advisor for the state, there are going to be some shortages, especially when we start thinking about, SNAP benefits. 1 out of every 3 Oregonians are impacted when it comes to, what we give from DHS. Do you think they also foresee there's going to be some major needs and asks as we kind of get closer into the fall?
We saw this previous to the changes, and we're hearing more of it now. I will say that at Robert Lindsay Tower, we do have Marion Polk Food Share that holds a food pantry on site for our seniors that we're incredibly grateful for. The only way they can continue to manage that is by staff volunteering from our agency, and we'll continue to do whatever we can to help unload that truck and put that pantry on, because it is so viable to keep those resources coming for the seniors who don't always have adequate means to get to food pantries out in the community.
All right. Thank you, Director.
Seeing no other questions, thank you very much.
Thank you.
So that will adjourn the Housing Authority for tonight. So I am moving on. For those in the audience that are a little unfamiliar with the process when we have 3 agendas, I'm just going to remind you we had the Housing Authority. Now we're moving on to the Urban Renewal Agency. Typically the mayor would step in, but the mayor is out of town, so I am serving as presiding officer, and Councilor Gwynn will be my support system in all of this. So just letting everyone know. So I'm moving on to the Urban Renewal. I'm calling to order the Urban Renewal Agency meeting for Monday, August 25th. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Board Member Tigan.
Present.
Board Member Nishioka.
I'm here.
Board Member Matthews.
Here.
Board Member Gwynn.
Here.
Board Member Brown.
Present.
Board Member Vang.
Still here.
Board Member Nordijk.
Present.
Board Member Varney.
Here.
And Chair Julie Hoy is absent.
Thank you. Do we have any public comment? Thank you. No public comment. We are now to the consent calendar.
I move approval of the consent calendar.
Second.
Was that Matthew? Tigan, thank you. Seconded by Tigan. Will the, I'm sure there's no questions, but we'll just check. All right. Will the recorder call the roll?
Board Member Nishioka.
Aye.
Board Member Matthews.
Aye.
Board Member Gwynn.
Aye.
Board Member Brown.
Aye.
Board Member Vang.
Aye.
Board Member Nordijk.
Aye.
Board Member Varney.
Aye.
Board Member Tigan.
Aye.
Chair Julie Hoy is absent.
So we already voted on this, but we just want to state that this included the minutes from July 28th. I neglected to give Councilor Gwynn the opportunity to speak to the motion. So, all right. No resolutions, no action items, no public hearings, no special orders of business, and we are now to information reports. I will check to see if our, I guess we would call you acting, or what do we call it? Just
Acting interim?
acting interim, wonderful. Ms. Rutherford, if you have anything that you want to say.
I don't have anything to speak directly to the financial report, although our finance department is here if there are any questions. I would like, there have been some questions that have come up by email regarding just kind of an overview of urban renewal, and we had planned on doing a work session over the course of the summer, but we had some more urgent items that were very time sensitive. our item is very important, but not as time sensitive. Right? So we've postponed it, and as we've looked ahead at work session agendas, the next opportunity is probably not going to be until February. So instead of doing a work session, we're going to come back at our meeting in September with a special orders of business item. So you will have that report and a presentation at that time as a part of the main urban renewal meeting.
Councilor Tigan.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Director Rutherford, and maybe this is something that comes up during that conversation, but looking at the Q4 financial report, one of the numbers that stuck out to me was on the second half of the report in the Capital Improvements Fund, and it had to do with the amount of resources available in the North Gateway, which seemed to rival only Riverfront downtown and sort of the resources available. And I'm just wondering if you can talk about if there's a plan for those resources, what kind of things they could go towards, how the public would know that that $30-some million would be put to use in that particular landscape.
So the North Gateway Urban Renewal Area has substantial tax increment because it is one of our oldest urban renewal areas, right up there with the Riverfront downtown one. So it's had a lot of years to accrue the tax increment. We reached maximum indebtedness for this urban renewal area, I forget the exact year, but maybe around 2017-ish, and did a substantial amendment at that point in time to increase our capacity because we were starting to see, a lot of new investment in that area and demand for grant programs and also some transportation projects in the area that we hadn't completed. So the funding that we have in that, we're going to hit maximum indebtedness in about a year in that urban renewal area. We will stop collecting tax increment. But with the funds on hand, some of those funds are committed to some of our transportation projects. They are partner funds for projects that are in the bond, so that the bond doesn't have to bear the full cost. We're bringing urban renewal resources to the table. Also, we're continuing to have grant funds available. We also have a property that was acquired within that urban renewal area, similar to Block 45 and Block 50, that will be moving towards redevelopment a little bit later this year. We'll kind of go through a similar process. So some of those resources would be available to help with that redevelopment because there is some site contamination on that property. So those are the planned uses.
Okay, great. Thanks for the update.
Anyone else? Any questions? I just want to state that I have been looking forward to the work session for urban renewal. I think all of us are really anxious about hearing about those that will be ending soon and what we can be doing with the funds. And so I'm really glad that we'll be getting that information coming in September. Thank you very much. All right, so I think that then concludes the urban renewal. Look at us zipping through all of this. All right, so we are now calling to order the City Council meeting for Monday, August 25th, 2025. Will the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Tigan.
Present.
Councilor Nishioka.
I'm here.
Councilor Matthews.
Here.
Councilor Gwynn.
Here.
Councilor Brown.
Present.
Councilor Vang.
Here.
Councilor Nordyke. Councilor Varney.
Here.
Mayor Julie Hoy is absent.
Thank you. So we do not have any additions or deletions, and we are to council and city manager comments. Does anyone have anything to say? Go ahead, Councilor Nordyke.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you and appreciate everyone. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I just want to let folks know that last week was my birthday. And yes, I didn't get a card from any of you. And that's okay. I'll let it slide this once. We're still located at 555. No, I'm just kidding. Birthdays are an opportunity to reflect, and I wanted to share my gratitude to the staff and to my peers on council and to everyone who comes to our meetings, because it is such a privilege to be in this seat. And I consider myself one of the lucky ones that I get to do what I love. I may not be paid, but that's okay. I do try to jest here. But really, another trip around the sun, and it is such an honor to be able to be here on the stage and represent my hometown is pretty darn cool. So I'm always grateful for the discussions that we have, the civility of our conversations, lots of great questions being asked at all of our meetings. I always feel like my peers bring something different to the table, and they ask questions where I'm like, oh, that's a good one. I wish I had thought of that myself. But that's the good thing about being in a deliberative body, is you don't have to have all the answers yourself, and you can't possibly bring the lived experience of every different walk of life. But everyone on this council does bring incredible different levels of experience and interests and just a passion for service. So I just want to say thank you to my peers. Thank you to Interim City Manager Krishna Namburi, who's not here tonight, but she knows I appreciate her. And also Tammy and Linda. They are the magic makers. They work in the front office, and they do an incredible job herding us cats as politicians. Because yes, cats and politicians have so much in common. We're fickle, we're fussy. And here you go. So thank you so much. And thank you for everyone who voted for me to allow me to be here.
All right, thank you. Do you want to go last or next? Councilor Tigan.
Yeah, I'll take the bait. Happy birthday.
Well, I'll go ahead and take the bait. My birthday was earlier this month. And I too appreciate all the work that our staff do, and I don't expect any cards or any any comments on my birthday. And before Ms. Rutherford speaks, I'm just going to add that I got to volunteer at the State Fair yesterday with the nice, hot, lovely weather, sun beating in on me. I was part of the Salem Kauai Sister fundraiser, selling nice cold water for the least amount that you could find at the State Fair. It was a great deal of fun, and we had a lot of return customers in the hours that I worked. And I'm glad that they had a great fundraiser. They're there all week long, so if you go to the State Fair, stop and get your water there. I also had the opportunity to tour the Arches Lodge on Fisher Road, Arches Nest, and which is the new family shelter that will be opening soon, and the Navigation Center. I really appreciated the Community Action Agency in providing that tour, and I believe that other councilors may have also taken it, so they may speak to it. I am very appreciative of all that they do for our community and all of the great opportunities they've provided people. So thank you.
All right. Well, as the acting interim city manager, I'll take my moment in the sun to first say my birthday's in January, and I don't have any party plans yet, so hit me up. You gotta get going. Right, that's right. I also wanted to say that at the urban renewal work session that we had planned to have but didn't have, we had planned on having Eric Anderson with SEDCOR join us in that work session to speak about the economic development work that we do with urban renewal and that we do in partnership with SEDCOR, because a substantial portion of our contract funding for SEDCOR comes from our urban renewal areas. So since that didn't happen, I've invited Eric to come tonight to give a presentation.
Thank you.
And should be up next or very shortly. All right.
Thank you for that. Appreciate the information about the funding, that some of the funding for SEDCOR is from the urban renewals. I was unaware of that until just recently, so, or maybe I should say I was reminded, because Josh would be upset with me if I didn't. All right. So, no other comments. Wonderful. We have no proclamations. And we do have that presentation. So, Mr. Anderson, would you like to step forward with your presentation? I'm assuming if there's anything that's going to be on our screens, that will be coming up.
Good evening. Hopefully there's something coming on your screens. I'm Eric Anderson with SEDCOR, the president of SEDCOR. I'm a Salem resident as well. Let's see if they, so we're a 43-year-old regional economic development organization, a nonprofit. I've been on the job for almost 7 years, and we provide business retention expansion services. We do outreach to our existing manufacturing businesses. We cover Marion, Polk, and Yamhill County, but as Kristen mentioned, we have a contract with the city to reach out to Salem employers that are traded sector, mostly manufacturing. We also do business recruitment. That's what generally gets the attention when we bring a large business into the community. But as you probably know, most of the jobs new jobs in a community come from businesses that are already here. And what I always tell our local government partners is that all of our local businesses here are good targets for other communities to recruit. So it's really important that we keep our fingers on the pulse of what's affecting them and how we can help them grow in the business. Is this?
Do we have the? There we go. I think. No.
Well, I can tap dance for the time. So at, do
you tap dance? Should we have you do that?
I didn't bring the right shoes, so otherwise I would definitely. But at SEDCOR, we leverage public and private partnerships to successfully grow, retain, and attract high-value jobs and investment in the region.
This is not, this is not it either.
Oh, yeah, the CPACE presentation is up.
Although we're very much interested in CPACE, so I'm glad that.
Well, while we're getting some assistance on getting this up.
Well, I can talk a little bit about what we've been doing around expansion, retention, and targeted recruitment. In 24-25, the most recent fiscal year, in the Salem region, we had projects that totaled almost $80 million in estimated investment, which created 136 new jobs and approximately $1 million in estimated annual property tax revenue to the city of Salem. One of the projects, or one of the roles that we play with the city, is also managing the city's enterprise zone for the community. And we had 3 new enterprise zone projects this past year. Jackman Industries, which is a metal roof pipe flashing company that, I'm going to get this wrong, they either went from just doing squares to doing circles or doing circles to squares, but they doubled their market potentially with new equipment. Pie Fabricators, a fabrication company, a metalworking company that specializes in biochar and environmental type industries. And Don Poncho, which is a great success story for the community. I'm sure you'll be hearing more about this, but they have, on September 24th, will be doing the grand opening of their new facility. This will be their 5th in the city of Salem, so they've grown from, I think, 1,500 or 1,700 square feet. And every time that they've expanded here in the community. And most recently now, they have gone to the former NORPAC facility that's currently owned by Lineage, and they're have done a fantastic job of renovating that space. I literally was, last time I'd been in there previously, it was dirt floors, and it's going to be a gorgeous facility for them. It's totals 300,000 square feet and gives them plenty of opportunity in the future for expansion of their products.
So while we're still waiting for that to come up, I will just simply ask if anyone has any questions just maybe questions about SEDCOR that Eric would be able to answer while we're waiting, unless we're getting, not quite. One thing I was going to say, I've gone to, and I can't remember what it's called, where they kind of, somebody with a new business will promote it, and then there's kind of competition with the funding that they might get. Could you speak to that and remind me what it's called?
It's called Pitch Willamette, is what we do here. It's part of our regional innovation hub that we operate, the Launchmont Valley Regional Innovation Hub. And that we do receive funding from the state. We just got new funding to extend that work with entrepreneurs and also mentors and investors, and trying to bring them together in the room like you were able to experience. It's an exciting opportunity to really try to identify either innovation businesses or businesses that are at that point where they need growth and they're looking for outside capital to come in, and outside investors. And what the Pitch Willamette does is Mike White, our venture catalyst, works with these entrepreneurs to develop their business plans, to perfect their pitch, kind of like for folks that watch Shark Tank. And that evening, the finalists, I think we had either 8 or 10 that night, do a 5-minute pitch, and we had a room full of investors and other folks that asked them some questions afterwards, and at the end vote with their checkbooks. And we have that Mid-Valley Angel Fund, so we have several local business and other community leaders that want to be able to invest in the communities that they live in and are looking for opportunities to invest in businesses. So it's a great way to leverage that capital and that interest in the community. And it's also very entertaining. I hope you would agree. I think it was a good night.
Right. Thank you, Councilor Nishioka. I feel like this is an appropriate time to bring up a question that we had. We received an email from Director Rutherford about whether SEDCOR could financially contribute to a minimum revenue guarantee for an airport. And I don't know if Director Rutherford or if you, Mr. Sandstrom, would like to speak further to that, but I know we're getting lots of questions all the time about whether it would be funded and who would pay for it, and this just seems very apropos to just speak a little bit to that.
Can you please turn on your mic?
Sorry. We have contracts for services. We get funded by other organizations to do specific things with our work. We're a contract-funded organization largely. We do have a membership, that's some of our revenue, but we don't have capital to generally invest in those types of initiatives. We have supported, the Fly Salem initiative and offered up our logo and met with the committee and been, tried to be a partner in that, but we don't have, basically we're using other people's money, so to speak, and investing in that, and we just don't think that's a sound way to use the money that people entrust us to do our business retention expansion and other work. That looks familiar.
Looks like maybe we are getting there or have gotten there.
Fantastic.
Thank you. So go right ahead.
Any other questions, or I'll just dive back into this?
Go ahead with your presentation,
Okay,
and then we'll ask questions afterwards.
Okay, so I think I got through that. And so continuing on the subject, the picture in the background of this, and the one you see in the foreground is Yamasa soy sauce. And I put this on here as an example of the kinds of projects we do on business retention expansion. A couple of years ago, they came to us and said that they were looking to try to decrease their carbon footprint, as well as identify new more local sources of wheat for their supply chain. And they found that we don't grow the kind of hard red wheat that they need, high in protein. And through some of our connections, we work with a lot of agriculture businesses and farmers in the region. They can be, and mostly are, very scrappy, as you can imagine, being in that industry. We identified someone that said, yeah, we'll do a test plot, and they ended up growing 20 acres of wheat. OSU studied it and hit all the requirements, and that farmer is now growing 160 acres of wheat for Yamasa locally, and we've got 2 other farmers that are also growing wheat for them. And this came up more recently because it's the 100th anniversary of the Oregon Wheat League. And Representative Scharf had come to us and said, I want to speak on behalf at the legislature in the House, but I want people to know that, we grow wheat on this side of the mountains and it's not just used for bread. So we worked with Yamasa to put one of those little tabletop bottles on every desk in the legislature for that. And she had an opportunity to talk about Yamasa, talk about SEDCOR and this kind of work in the region. So we were very pleased with that. We've hosted 2 tariff roundtables recently, one for Governor Kotek, and most recently, just a little over a week ago, for Senator Wyden and Congresswoman Salinas. In the most recent one, we brought together 10 businesses from the region and talked to our delegation about the challenges they're facing with some of the tariff changes, proposals. Businesses like to be assured and like certainty, and some of the policies have been impacting their ability to not just sell product in other countries, but also bring in components of what they produce here. I mean, I think the message that we got was, people generally, we have businesses that are manufacturers here. They like to manufacture. They believe in that. But, to quickly try to identify alternative sources of supply, it makes it really difficult for them to meet their contracts. So we are called on to bring those kinds of businesses together and have the relationships because of our BRE to do that. And generally in the region, there's been a lot of interest around data centers, particularly with Portland General Electric's announcement of their infrastructure investment that's coming down the pike that's going to be bringing renewable energy from the Warm Springs tribe in the area of Central Oregon to the Willamette Valley. And these businesses are looking for land and power. So we've had a lot of conversations, and I'm pleased to say that one that has kind of risen to the top is actually already in the process. Has had an initial pre-application meeting with the city, and we'll see where that goes. But it's an exciting project for us, and it's really the first of its kind in our region. This is getting to some of the questions that you had earlier regarding our innovation and entrepreneurship. The Launchment Valley that I mentioned previously, we've accomplished the first year officially of funding for that from the state. We had 37 events around the region with 777 attendees. We've shored up 9 coffee clubs for entrepreneurs around the region. 3 of them are operating here in Salem. So in fact, just before this meeting, we brought all those coffee club hosts together to help best practices and plan for the coming year. The pop-up and pitch that I mentioned in here, that's something we do with the Oregon Entrepreneurs Network for food entrepreneurs, consumer packaged goods companies that may be selling at the farmer's market, may be at LifeSource, may even be in Roth's, but how do they get that into more stores? How do they get their product out to more potential markets? This allows them to, we've been doing this the last couple of years, it allows them access to not only potential buyers for these new markets, but also gives them a chance to do their 5-minute pitch as well. So we combine that with, their ability, training them and helping them with their ability to sell their own business and their product. And we're doing that for the first time in downtown Salem this year. It's going to be in the Grand, in the lobby of the Grand Hotel, and right coming up into the holidays. So a great place for some gifts for the holidays of locally made products. We've also been managing or funding the Latino Microenterprise Development Program, which is culturally and linguistically appropriate training for entrepreneurs and small businesses. We work with the Latino Business Alliance on this. Thus far, we have completed 9 cohorts around the region, I think 4 of them here in Salem, to over 250 participants total. We'll be applying for additional funding to develop a 201 course, which is beyond the sort of initial 12-week initial course because we're getting a demand for that from the businesses. It's by far, when we do the graduations, we just did a graduation of the most recent Salem cohort last week, but every one of those I've been to has been one of the best nights as far as just an appreciative group of folks that have really developed not only the skills to refined and develop the skills to run their business, but also develop relationships with the other businesses there. And being each other's mentor, it's been really inspirational to be part of that. And also the Northwest Ag Innovation Hub. This is something we've been doing for several years now. We've had funding from started with the U.S. Economic Development Administration, but it was how do we look at technology opportunities but in the context of agriculture in the region. And this is something that we're part of a network of farmer-funded business accelerator that brings technology. We've got 4 farmers that are hosting new technology startups in the region, and the Ford Family Foundation is helping us defray the farmers' costs. So it's quite exciting. Everything from different applications of new materials to nano tractors, which is my personal favorite, little fully autonomous nano tractors that help with weed eradication and things like that. Under infrastructure and workforce development, I mentioned Build Mid-Valley. This has been one of the things when we go out and do business retention expansion, we ask our employers, what are the issues you're facing? And workforce generally comes up as an issue or a question. And more specifically, in the last few years, it's been we can't find housing for our workers, or we can't attract workers because they can't find housing. And a lot of the work we were doing started in the Newburgh area with some of our work we'd been doing there. We were fortunate to work with the Council of Governments to expand this to the region and host this event at Eola Shemeketa. Mayor Hoy was in attendance for part of the day. So long-term planning from Salem was in attendance. I think we have some different work groups now looking at new financial tools and other things that can help spur more workforce housing. And we work really closely with the Missing Middle Housing Fund on that. They're really good partners in this work. The SEDCOR Construction Alliance is another thing that we do that we manage. That started as something around skills for the construction industry, and we worked really closely with the CTE programs, and in some cases, some of my predecessors really helped form those originally to be sure that the trades and the construction skills are represented in the programming that's done at the schools to build a future pipeline of workers. And one of the projects that we've been working on is the re-roofing of the Gilbert House, and we're learning some of the challenges of getting through the process, but we've got 2 contractors that we toured the facility with last week, and we're looking forward to seeing where we go with that from the perspective of working with the city to replace the roofing there in a way that's historic preservation relevant, but as well to protect the materials that are kept inside. And just to be sure that you're all invited, our annual awards are coming up on September 12th, the luncheon, and that's a time for us to be celebrating kind of innovation and projects and people in our region. And not too many spoilers, there's some good local businesses that you will see represented in the awards, but we encourage you to attend and take part in that. It's generally really a fun way to celebrate what's going on in the area and kind of be positive about the great things that are happening around businesses in the region. We do industry tours on a regular basis for SEDCOR members, and Garmin will be hosting one for us on October 30th. So if there's interest from any of the council members to attend on that and join us, please let me know, let us know. And I already mentioned the Launch Mid-Valley and Oregon Entrepreneurs Network event that we're doing on November 21st here in downtown Salem. And just generally our regional identity, and this is part of our work plan that we will be updating next year, but we want to see the Mid-Willamette Valley to be known as a great place to start or grow a business, an equitable place, an equitable and inclusive business community, and a region with strengths in agriculture, manufacturing, technology, food production, all the traditional industries that we have, but also identifying ways to be innovative in our traditional industries and do good things. So happy to, once again, answer any questions that you have.
Thank you very much. A lot of information. Appreciate that. And looks like we have some questions, so go ahead, Councilor Nguyen.
Thanks so much for coming.
Of course.
So we often hear we often hear like Travel Salem and Fly Salem. They're going to conferences to bring business in. I didn't see that in your presentation. Is that something you guys do? Like go to a conference and sell Salem?
We generally work with other economic development organizations and try to go through, like there's a group called Team Oregon that the state has managed in the past that we've participated as a partner and go and promote the region and promote Salem and promote the locations that we have. Generally now it's been, one of it's been we've been somewhat limited in the kinds of sites that we've had. I've been working more closely with particularly with Mill Creek, that's been a big part of our work plan, Pac Trust and Capstone and Scanel, the developers that have land out there and have put up buildings. We're working to really promote those spaces to folks. We've hosted not only businesses that are coming to town and toured them, but we've also hosted Business Oregon's recruitment team so that they see the kinds of assets that we have in the region and try to match that with the recruitment that they do. We've also hosted the international offices of Business Oregon. So recently it was the office that has the Japan contract, the contract for Asia, and toured them around as well so that they got to see the kinds of businesses that we have, the industries that we're targeting, as well as the kinds of sites that we have. Kristen and I were able to actually meet with a Japanese business that last week is being courted by one of their potential partners in this, Yamasa. And I think this is a good testament to doing business here is that the company, they feel that they do, they're in a place where they get great water and they get great quality wheat and they love the location. And they've been talking to one of the businesses that they work with about, hey, you should come here and take advantage of this as well. And we're in it for the long game with a project like that, but it's still a great opportunity to present, what the benefits, particularly around food and beverage, of this region and of Salem to a company like that.
Okay. Go ahead, Councilor Tyken.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Mr. Anderson, thanks again for coming down today.
Of course.
This is a real general question, but I think your area of expertise might lend to being able to answer it. I'm curious when you think about the service area SEDCOR serves is Marion County, Polk County, and Yamhill.
Right.
If you were to put the city of Salem within that group and think about those 4 geographic areas, could you rank them by total amount of economic activity? Like in your service area, where are businesses and where is, and think big, like the land, the production, the jobs, like all of the economic activity. Could you rank them? Like with some degree of confidence?
Probably not surprisingly, the Salem area would be where we have the most activity. It's where the most businesses are, the most concentration of businesses. The most active enterprise zone that we work with is here. We've also had, for 20 plus years, Mill Creek as an asset to market. So when you look, even 6 years ago when I joined SEDCOR, and now, we kept telling people, trust us, that's filling up. And now you actually see the buildings going up over there. There's different types of activities in different places in the region. We're seeing a little bit more of an uptick in hopefully some activity in West Salem, so Polk County. Independence has certainly had a lot of activity, but it was a bit more of a challenge when it comes to industrial. They've had a couple closures there that we're actively trying to draw new employers into some of the existing buildings that are there. I would say in the 3-county region, the other area that's particularly active is the McMinnville to Newburgh. McMinnville, we have a partner there, the McMinnville Economic Development Partnership. We work with them very closely, but there's an energy over in McMinnville that I think has benefited. And then Newburgh, we've spent a fair bit of time in Newburgh just to kind of see where because they're so close to Metro, I think they end up getting a lot of interest. And there's a former paper mill there that, we've been actively trying to get that site, marketed and out there for folks, because we just don't have those kind of heavy industrial sites in the region that much.
Can I ask a quick follow-up? And now I'm really going to make a guess, so I'm sorry. Like, when you think of maybe the City of Salem in particular, how much of the business activity, and part of this is that we don't, we all know the City of Salem doesn't collect information about the businesses that are operating in the city. So when I get access to someone who has some interest in that, then I might ask them a question or two. Could you characterize or guess how much of the economic activity in Salem is by companies, organizations that aren't headquartered here, that maybe are headquartered somewhere else, like a Costco or a Target? Those kind of stand out. But do you have a sense this is mostly a small business based in Salem, or no, actually it's a lot more?
That's a good question. It's one of the challenges. I'll use the example of a company that's not in the region, but Pacific Natural Foods up in Tualatin. When they announced they were closing, they're owned by Campbell's, so that's 11 buildings in that area. So and I'm always wondering if there's a kind of infrastructure, at the state level. Do they reach out to the corporate headquarters types of calls? And because we did try to make them aware that, hey, we've got Campbell's facility in our region as well. But that was a good opportunity for me to reach out to and start to develop a stronger relationship with as leadership changes in these these businesses as well. My contact that still responds very quickly is no longer in Salem, for Kettle. I would say it'd be interesting to actually take a look. We have several businesses that have been acquired over time. So, businesses that we kind of thought were local. We're still dealing with local leadership a lot of the time, but when the time comes for capital, when the time comes for even things like the enterprise zone, we're often having to reach out to somebody in a distant state to get the signatures on some of those things. So
maybe I'll put a finer point on it, but where the profit accrues is no longer in Salem?
I think that's probably safe to say that there's more of that now of companies that have been purchased and with outside of Salem corporate headquarters. I mean, it's I can think of several just offhand in the last few years. Baxter has bought Truett, and every time that happens, it's an opportunity for us to redevelop a relationship with new folks and also help the local leadership. We're working with one company that's here, that's owned by it's a locally grown but now owned by an out-of-state company. We're trying to work with them to actually help them make the argument for investment in their facility. So we end up with a partnership with the locals.
Great, thanks.
Councilor Matthews.
So obviously, you and I met several months ago, shortly after I got elected, and one of the things that really stood out to me when we were chatting was that you guys do have a lot of local, it seemed like it was a lot of input into trying to build local business for local business. And so I think you kind of touched on that some in your report, but it was about kind of getting local companies to use local products. And so that really resonated with me on kind of that local people trying to build up this community themselves. And a lot of your work still does kind of touch this local community. And so I just wanted to touch on that because I didn't feel like your report really went deep into that, but I know that's a part of your business that kind of is trying to build that local business aspect.
I appreciate you saying that. I mean, the supply chain aspects of it are really important to us. And the last few years, we've hosted we call it the locally grown supply chain, but we're taking that model that we did with Yamasa and inviting farmers to come and meet with local processors and get a feel for, what kinds of products do you want us to be, in this case it's for food processing or beverages, but what can we be growing for you? I mean, that's the big challenge. When NORPAC closed, and we thankfully have had reinvestment in the facilities there, but there are 200 farmers that were like, what do we grow? And we get this, pretty regularly. So every winter we do an ag breakfast where one of the aspects is trying to identify what the trends are in the marketplace so that growers know what to be growing. But that's also one of the questions that we ask when we do a business retention expansion call is to identify, where do you get the widgets that you use in your business? Where do you get the ingredients that you use if you're in food or beverage? And those are by far our favorite stories. And there have been cases where at these meetings, there are businesses across the street from each other that had never met. We love those stories. One of a little bit off, maybe off topic, but one of the projects that we were really proud of was when Burgerville opened up on Lancaster. They offered up something called the Don Burger, and that was made with Don Froilan cheese and Don Pancho tortilla strips on it. And we, of course, tried to celebrate by bringing several of those into our office for lunch one day in a little way of supporting it. But some of that happened as a result of Don Froilan being at one of our marketplaces and having the Oregon Entrepreneurs Network make the connection with Burgerville. And it's just a little thing, but when you see when they see the companies getting promotion out of it themselves, and they're very proud of doing that, it does make us feel good that, we get a lot of little stories that sometimes we miss. If you get a lot of little stories, it ends up being a big story.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Mr. Anderson, thank you for your report. So you mentioned earlier that you all are currently working with the Latino Micro Enterprise Development Program?
Yes.
Can you share with us, A, how did you build that relationship? And then B, what are the other groups that you're working with?
Sure. In that group, it started with I'm trying to remember the Latino Business Alliance received $100,000 from the legislature for small business recovery assistance kind of post-COVID. And the LBA folks said, we really don't want to just give that out. We'd like to do something that would, have a longer lasting impact, and they wanted to do a loan program. And I said, well, this is where we always joke that we kind of try to connect dots at SEDCOR. I said, well, the Council of Governments runs programs. Let's get them involved. Maybe they can help advise you. And as the conversation with LBA started, it was, well, how do we train these businesses so they do have the skills and the tools to be able to repay, the loan when it happens? And, we brought in our partners like the Chemeketa Small Business Development Center, Advanced Economic Solutions, Marin Ariola, and said, how do we develop a culturally appropriate and linguistically appropriate training to help these entrepreneurs be able to skill up for their business, and then if that makes them eligible to receive a loan, then hopefully be able to repay that loan. That was the goal. So really, it kind of happened organically with the Latino Business Alliance having a source of funding first, and then we recognized that there was an opportunity to really develop this program. And as I mentioned, we've done over 250 people now have gone through that. And I think there's still opportunities to make connections in other areas. We just have had funding for that one from Business Oregon. Most recently, the Economic Equity Investment Program. That's been funding to help both with the trainings as well as actually even things like providing food for the classes, so because they're all at night after people have been working a full day. So we've tried to make it easy on them to be able to participate.
So if I were a culturally relevant group besides the Latino Micro Enterprise, how would I be a part of this?
First, I think just having a conversation with me and seeing where some of the opportunities are. I mean, we went out in the beginning and identified the Small Business Technical Assistance Program that the state had at the time to fund the LBA program. And if we know that there's other folks out there that might be interested in this, we try to take that model and apply it to other groups. So yeah, we'd definitely be interested in talking.
Thank you, sir. I yield the floor.
You're most welcome.
Anyone else have questions? Councilor Varney.
Thank you. And thank you, Mr. Anderson, for the presentation. I don't have a business background, and wow, and I don't know very much about SEDCOR, so this was really, really helpful. I mean, you do an awful lot in this community, in our counties. I mean, wow, not just business expansion, but all the way to the education part of it. I was curious about the Construction Alliance. I don't know if I missed it, but what, I think that's education. You mentioned CTE, I believe. And my question was, what are the ages of students, or how does somebody get involved in it? And are the trade unions involved? And is there still an apprenticeship program?
The last one is there's apprenticeship programs that we have Chemeketa as part of that group that comes in with their apprenticeship folks. So it really started as it's a real grassroots effort just to, as we do with other industries sometimes, bring an industry together and they have a stronger voice as a group, particularly probably 20 years ago when it started, to try to educate or provide input to the school districts when they were looking at career technical education programs and saying, here are the skills that we find that we need and are lacking in new applicants. The other area where that program has really excelled has been because there's so many businesses that come to the table or capable of coming to the table. For example, after the wildfires in the Santiam Canyon, we used the mailing list of the Construction Alliance and some of the key members to basically pull businesses together and say, actually it was Rich Duncan Construction that said, hey, we see an opportunity to look at a former school building in Detroit and making that into a community center. And it's not going to solve all the problems right now, but it's going to provide a positive, a little bit of hope and positive impact to the community and give them a space and literally out of the ashes. And we went to the Staten High School. It was, I think, October or November. It was a little chilly. I remember sitting in the stands because it was still post-COVID, so we were outside. And I think we had over 100 businesses show up that morning. And we had big pieces of plywood that they could sign and just say, yes, we're interested. And, sometimes it was donation of goods. Sometimes it was donation of just labor on themselves. We had attorneys that were calling up and saying, is there any assistance that we can give? Because of the wildfires, that was really, particularly meaningful opportunity. But it was that Construction Alliance relationship that allowed us to, relatively easily get that message out quickly and draw folks together.
Wow. Wow, that's impressive. Can I ask one more quick thing?
Certainly.
It has to do with the red wheat. And I'm curious, is the fact that we haven't grown much here, is it just because there isn't a market for it, or is it because of our climate?
Yeah, we do grow some wheat here. We just hadn't grown that kind of wheat. And in some cases, when someone comes to us and says, we're looking for something that's not grown here, it may be a climate issue. But in this case, I think it was thought that we can grow the kind of wheat that we have been growing in the region. And so let's get a wheat farmer to figure out if we can grow it to meet the specs of, in this case, the Yamasa folks. So I think there are opportunities. We had a project that was looking at this area a couple of years ago. That was a vegetable protein kind of meat substitute type of business. And they used yellow peas as their protein source. And, initial conversation with the Department of Agriculture was like, well, yeah, we can grow those. So, I mean, for us, it's just a matter of, being able to make that connection sometimes and be able to say to our farmers, here is a market for you, particularly on products that, they don't have to grow a tree for over 6 or 7 years to have it harvest. I mean, these are things that they could plant in a year. We've had a lot of luck more recently. The market's doing quite well for hazelnuts. And I think that provides us an opportunity in this region. We've got the attention of Ferrero, the Italian family-owned company that makes Ferrero Rocher chocolates. They're a multi-billion-dollar-a-year company. They actually just bought, I think they either bought or they're going to buy Kellogg's. So it's it's a good company. But sometime I always say that we're the worst people to sit next to on an airplane because we have all this trivia in our heads. But this is one I think you can all use. When you have a Ferrero Rocher candy, the center of it is an Oregon hazelnut because the hazelnuts here are the highest quality and highest consistency. so that's just an example of how, okay, are there opportunities as Ferrero is more interested in this area, with that market growing, are there farmers that might want to start planting, looking at planting more hazelnuts, for example. We really just try to keep our fingers on the pulse of what's going on and help communicate that. So the growers do have, some good market data and market intelligence that they can use as they're planning what they're going to grow next year. It's just so volatile that, you actively see hops getting pulled out, and every year it seems like there's, changes, and, it's a tough industry to be in, but we try to make it a little bit easier, at least with information and encouragement.
Great, thank you, Mr. Anderson. I have a couple of questions or statements, so I'll finish off. First, it sounds like we don't always get the opportunity to hear about the exciting things that are happening business-wise, creation of either jobs or agriculture that might be adapting to fit the needs. So I'm going to suggest, and hopefully you'll agree, that if any of our counselors would like to meet with you, for a cup of coffee to kind of hear, because then it makes it more real for us and exciting. And so thank you for that. I also want to thank you. I know it's been about, a year and a half at least since we began the Gilbert House project. And I want to thank you. This is some contractors that are willing to devote their time while the Gilbert House is supported with TOT funds, but they have some serious needs on getting roofs and structures repaired. And so I had reached out to Mr. Anderson to see if he could make some connections, and he's done an amazing job, and I look forward to when some of that construction happens. The last thing that I'd like to say is, as the state, at the state level, is trying to work on projects to make the state itself more resilient and self-sufficient, I see that there's many opportunities that SEDCOR could be involved in, so hopefully we'll see even more happening.
I hope so.
All right. Thank you again very much.
Thank you for your time, and happy to answer questions or connect with you offline sometime and develop a relationship there. So thank you for the invitation.
Again, thank you. And thank you to the staff for getting the report finally up. Appreciate that. Okay, we are now to public comment. So those of you that signed up for public comment, we have a total of 4. So I'm going to call the first 2 names, with the first person being first. You have 3 minutes to speak. After everyone, I'll just check to see if anyone has any questions when your time is over with. Mr. Glennie, Dave Glennie, you're first, and then Julia Battle is number 2, so be ready to come up as the second person. The microphone is already on, and thank you.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair and councilors. My name is David Glennie, and my business address is 445 Myers Street, which is, I've been there 23 years, and I'm just a half a block from the corner of Bush Park that I want to talk about tonight. I'm here to urge your support for Councilor Nishioka's motion rectifying the no-mow policy at Bush Park. I want to make it clear, I'm specifically interested in the picnic area at the south end and not the rest of it. This is an area that's it's a popular picnic area and has been for years. It's a community asset to a diverse group of people. I have no stake in the game, but I miss the activity that's been ongoing there as long as I've been located. I appeared here on June 9th. Regrettably, I spoke at the end of a long meeting that was dominated by the Avalo Airlines protests, and my comments generated really no interest from council at that evening. My earlier testimony is in your packet, and it covers some different ground. I've submitted an additional couple of handouts this evening. One of them is a chart. One is a photograph of the before and after look at this area in the playground. But the second one is a chart that takes specific language from the CLMP report and compares it to the outcomes. And I hope you look at it because it illustrates that in the desire to save the mighty white oak trees and groves, the framers have overlooked the fact that picnickers have never really been a proven problem. Rather, theoretical threats have been created by inattentive mowing, heavy machinery, overwatering, and the pummeling administered by the annual art fair. My recommendations are simple. Please consider them in supporting Councilor Nishioka's motion. Number one, the picnicking area should be mowed, reopened, and the picnic tables relocated. Number two, this section of the upper oak grove should be mowed on a year-round basis. Number three, the wood chip areas around the trees should be mowed with hand mowers. And number four, the irrigation during dry months should be reduced as recommended in the report. While the 700-page CLMP report is rife with data, a careful reader will note that many of the conclusions are opinions rather than scientific facts. Those offering the data openly state the report is, quote, fundamentally a work of opinion and therefore subjective, close quote. Further, the report is devoid of offering any methodology to determine perceived improvements of success. Those determinations, too, will be opinions. I have spoken with dozens of park patrons who, like me...
Mr. Glennie, time is up. I will see if anyone has any questions. I'm going to ask the question if you would like to please continue your last few sentences.
I've spoken with dozens of park patrons. Yes. Many park patrons like me lament the loss of the vital picnicking venue. Please correct this misplaced policy choice. Thank you.
Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
Now we have Julia Battle, and then after her will be Michael Weber.
I'm Julia Battle. I'm from Ward 3. I'm here as chairman of the board of the Mission Street Park Conservancy. And as such, we support Bush Park as a partner with the Parks Department. We work physically and they're in the park regularly to enhance the park, to keep it up, and we also provide funds to do things, other programs and stuff at the park. It's been our mission always to make the park better and to make it a real jewel of Salem. I think everybody agrees that the oak trees and the oak groves are very important and special, and they need to be kept up. I think we need to look to professionals and look at professional scientific data on what's the best way to do this. And I think some people look and say they don't like the looks of the park now, and they're comparing that to a lawn rather than what it's supposed to be, which is an oak savanna. This is an oak savanna with should have wildflowers and native plants growing under it. That's what it historically was before we came in and started managing it. And if we want this to continue to be there for generations, which I think most of us want to have those oak trees there so our children and grandchildren can continue to enjoy them like we have, we need to remember that it's important that we have to give up some of the things we might want to have it continue. And so if everybody uses it like they would want, like our grandparents used it, it won't be there anymore. And I think we've seen the decline of oak trees, and that's why we started implementing a lot of these projects. So I'd just like to say, I think we ought to support the parks people there that are hired professionals and they know what they're doing, and support what their recommendations are and not try to tell them what, from our outside view, what should be done to it. So we support the parks and the professionals there that are making the decisions. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you very much. So Michael Weber, and then after Michael, I think it's Cynthia Jones, I think, reading the writing.
Now I'm live. Madam Chair and council members, first of all, I want to thank you for your support of the levy earlier this year to enable Salem to have the library and the parks and Center 50. I'm sure it wasn't popular with all your constituents, but it's popular with a whole lot of people. Thank you for that. Tonight, though, I'd like to address the motion the City Council has brought forward that City Council will dictate to Parks and Rec how and when to mow. You hired Parks and Rec professionals to run your parks. You hire professionals to run your public works departments. You don't have to tell them how to clean toilets. You don't have to tell parks people how to take care of grass and trees. They are dedicated. They're there every day. In fact, I'll be there tomorrow morning at 8 o'clock with Julia, with the volunteers every Tuesday who work in Bush Park for the benefit of everybody. Why are we concerned so much about these oak trees? Sarcasm about grand old white oaks is misplaced. Some of these trees are 300 years old. They bring an invaluable presence and a cultural heritage to all of us in the Willamette Valley. I'm not privileged to be part of that background, but I'm privileged to try to support it. Those trees grow slowly. They have requirements. Bush Park is 90 acres. We don't need a 90-acre lawn. There is a lot of grass in Bush Park, and I'm sure that the city manager is aware of how much time it takes to mow that lawn and to do it right. And the idea of asking her parks people to take out their hand mowers and hand mow the park is not real effective. There is a lot of grass in the park that is not being used. There are a lot of picnic tables that could be used. Yes, there's been changes made. We took the playground out by South LaFell. That was removed because it wasn't safe. That wasn't a gardening issue or anything to do with the plants. We had a shooting and a death there a year ago. That had nothing to do with the plants. We took the tables out for safety. We can make changes to the south end of the park. We can do things at LaFell Street to make it more usable, but we don't have to mow the lawn, water under the oaks, and threaten their future. I think we should respect what we have and work very, very hard to keep it. Bush Park is just a jewel, and people enjoy it, and I'm proud to work there and help out.
Thank you very much. Any questions? I just want to state that you're from Ward 3.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes, and previously Julia said she's from Ward 3 and Mr. Glennie is from Ward 2. I just wanted to correct that because I neglected to reinforce that everyone's supposed to tell their ward or their address.
Okay, well, Julia and I travel further and get our hands dirtier. But
all right, thank you. And Cynthia, you're up next.
Hi, I'm Cynthia Jones, and I'm from Ward 1. Do you want my address as well? Okay. I look at the fires at Sisters and the Santiam fire we had years ago, and my concern is with the fire hazard of not mowing that yard or that area of Bush Park. I know that Chinook Winds requires their residents to mow their fields as a fire prevention act, and I don't want Salem to become we should have kind of situation where there is a fire that damages the trees and that damages that area beyond repair. So I would like to see Bush Park become a active fire prevention. I would like to see an active fire prevention act happen there with the mowing of that field. And that's all I have to say.
Thank you very much for your testimony.
Thank you.
So that completes testimony, and we are now to our consent calendar.
I move approval of the consent calendar with the exception of item 3.3A, which was pulled by me.
Second.
Thank you. We have a motion by Councilor Gwynn and a second by Councilor Teigen. Will the recorder please call to your motion. I caught it myself.
The consent calendar consists of item 3.1A, draft City Council minutes from our August 11th, 2025 meeting. 3.1B, August 18th, draft City Council work session minutes. 3.3B, an intergovernmental agreement between the Oregon Department of Aviation and the City of Salem to undertake state-funded pavement maintenance at Salem-Willamette Valley Airport. And that concludes the consent calendar.
Thank you. Does anyone have any questions on that? If not, Recorder, will you please call the roll?
Councilor Vang?
Aye.
Councilor Nordag? Aye. Councilor Varney?
Aye.
Councilor Tigan?
Aye.
Councilor Matthews?
Aye.
Councilor Gwynn?
Aye.
Councilor Brown?
Aye.
Mayor Julie Hoy is absent. Councilor Nishioka?
Aye. Motion passes. All right, so we have no public hearings, and we are now to special orders of business. And the first one on there is my motion, and so I am going to get to it so I can read it. I move that the City Council directs Parks Maintenance Division to continue the seasonal no-mow restoration program at Bush Pasture Park, and beginning this season and continuing annually implement a modified mowing approach in the Southwest Picnic area and Southwest Picnic and Recreation area as set forth in this motion.
Second.
Thank you. It's been moved by Councilor Nishioka, seconded by Councilor Tigan. So to my motion, let me just explain what happened, and this might answer some of the questions or points that have been made. Mr. Glennie came at a meeting in June when there was a lot of other testimony, and he spoke about this, and he had passed out the information. He had printed and brought that in. And at that time, it was a pretty busy meeting, and there were not any questions to his concerns. He reached out to me, and I did meet with him. We had several conversations, and I inquired with the Parks Committee, and Rob Romanak answered really our questions very well. And so even though Mr. Glennie was disappointed, I felt there wasn't much more that I could do at the time. But then I started receiving more complaints or more emails, more communications, and it rose and it rose, and it continued. I was initially under the impression that the no-mow was in kind of a pilot program, and I think it still is, and I was thinking that it was initially for a year. And then again, speaking with Mr. Romanak, I discovered that there was going to be the single mow in September. And again, he and I spoke about the concerns of how it's changed the park in the sense of areas for people to picnic. And then I learned that the process would continue. And so I thought, okay, I need to take this opportunity to figure out if we might need to have some sort of compromise so we could find a way or an area where picnickers could still enjoy the park as they had been. And I also met with additional and people about this matter, one of which was past Public Works Director Peter Fernandez. And so I brainstormed with Peter, and we talked about potential ways to suggest or ask the Parks Maintenance Program if they, or Parks Department, if they had any suggestions on how we might sort of help everyone. And so that's why this motion has come forward, and my purpose is to just find a way to ensure that the many people that have come to enjoy the park, picnic in that corner, really are not coming there. And what's happening is the picnic tables are now in areas where it's direct sun, and then and very difficult to get to because it's not near where they might park and be able to bring all of their food and things that they would need for their picnic. And what's happening is people move the picnic tables back where they were and try to enjoy that area. And then again, the picnic tables get moved and then moved back. So again, I'm just trying to find a way that we can protect the savanna and ensure that people that are visiting the park can have a place to be, and that there's wayfinding signs so people know where that is so that they can enjoy the picnic as they would like. So anyway, I think Mr. Romanak is going to come down and he'll be prepared. I think he's going to bring up a map. I know that a couple councilors had asked about a map so they could understand where this is, and we will have the opportunity to speak with him. Thank you very much.
Good evening, Rob Romanak. I'm the city's park planning manager. Pleasure to be here this evening. I do have a few slides that are being pulled up right now. I'm just going to skip right to a map that hopefully loads. It worked before the meeting. We are making progress.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience.
Okay, tonight we are here to discuss a management change that park staff made this year, and that management change is located in the southwest corner of Bush's Pasture Park. This is a map with lots of colorful polygons on it, and this shows the various management zones that we have in the park. The dark green that has the two red arrows on it, that larger green area is referred to as the Upper Oak Grove Management Zone. And we do have 3 sub-management zones in that area. Tonight, we are talking about a change to 2 of them. One of them is the our Upper Oak refocus and stabilization area, and the other one is simply called picnic and playground. So it has a much more easy to roll off comment there. So why we're here tonight, Councilor Nishioka introduced her motion, and I think my role tonight is just to provide some context, some detail, and I actually want to introduce a few recommendations for consideration as well. Before I get into that, there's just something I really want to highlight. When we're talking about picnicking under mature oak trees, we need to talk about sudden limb drop. It's not often that parks, it's a life or death situation in our world, but this is a situation where there's a low potential that there could be a really catastrophic event. And I just want to highlight that for a moment. It happened in Salem a few years ago when a gentleman unfortunately died from injuries that happens when a tree limb just abruptly drops in the middle. There's no signs beforehand, it just happens. And then I have another headline up there from Los Angeles, and this can highlight that it's not specific to Oregon white oaks. It has to do with mature oak trees. This 8-year-old boy who tragically passed away this summer was at a summer camp at a park just a few miles from where I grew up in Los Angeles. And it was a group of people who were congregated around a picnic table. That's what happened, and the limb just suddenly fell, and it was a tragic event there. I do not want that happening here in Salem, certainly. Now, how we address this, we have a mitigation strategy. We have an urban forestry team who have qualifications to look for hazardous trees, and they're constantly out there. Actually, one of our qualified arborists is there in the park every day, and they're taking a close eye at these oak trees, and there's regular pruning. And in the case of one tree, unfortunately, I do believe we're headed toward a removal here in the next few months because of what they see is concerning enough. They're going to take that step. There's also building awareness about the risks that comes from hanging out under a big oak tree. And when necessary, there's steps we're thinking about, both temporary closures, but that last bullet there, kind of permanent closures with fencing. And that is something we're looking at across our park system. This is not unique to Bush. There's other parks that have old, mature oak trees that we're concerned about use under them. And so this is something we're constantly discussing. Now, I do want to talk about the Bush's Pasture Park and Deepwood Gardens Cultural Landscape Management Plan. What is it? It's a special tool we have as land managers to help us guide our work to preserve, protect, and manage this culturally significant place. I also want to highlight that it is a plan that was developed through a robust public engagement process, and it was approved by City Council in 2021. It does put forth an overarching vision and 4 broad goals. I just have a summary of the vision there. The vision expresses the values the Salem people place in the park, and sometimes they can be in conflict with each other, but they are listed there. It's to protect, enhance the oaks, the wildflowers, and Pringle Creek, to be a place of natural exploration, while also being a place of active play and recreation, family gatherings, maintaining a sense of history, and areas for reflection. Now, getting into a little bit about what we're here talking about specifically tonight, here's a blow-up showing those management areas in the southwest corner. We have that oak refocus and stabilization area, as well as the historic picnic and playground area. The issue is that the new no-mow area reduces the usability for shaded picnicking. That's specifically the issue we're talking about tonight. And the proposed action here is more regular mowing in strategic areas to restore access while protecting the oak trees. So that's what I'm hearing from the councilor's motion. I want to add that as we move away from this idea of dispersed picnic tables, which, picnic tables move when they're not tied down. They move around. We should be moving away from that and be moving toward more developed picnic facilities where those tables are actually tied down and they're in safer areas in the park when it comes to that sudden wind drop concern I shared with you earlier. This is an exercise in balancing access and ecology. It really is. So from this approach that we're discussing tonight, it's about maintaining the no-mow benefits outside of the designated picnic areas, continue to protect oaks and saplings with buffer practices. So as we identify that acorns are germinizing and they're sprouting up, we're going to come up with a way to flag them and kind of encage them to protect them from our mowing staff so that these baby oak trees can grow up. And then we can actually have a true forest that has a diverse range of sizes of trees. We just have the old grandpas and grandmas there today. We don't have anyone else. So we got to start building up the baby trees. We're going to continue to manage invasive plants consistent with the city's IPM policy. And then we have some exciting work we're doing with volunteers where we've collected camas seeds from the lower oak grove, and we're looking forward to scattering those in the upper oak grove to really start to reintroduce camas and other native plants and wildflowers in that area as we try to return it from a manicured lawn area to more of a forest, an oak savanna forest. And then while doing these things, I do believe we are maintaining consistency with our goals and objectives for our land management plan. I have this figure on the bottom right now. I just want to highlight this is kind of a trajectory that we could be on for oak trees in the park. We are very much focused on stabilizing right now. That's what we're doing. We're stabilizing the oak trees, and we're hoping to see that we're no longer moving in the direction of decline. That's what we're doing today. I do want to say we have a long road ahead if we want to get to our ultimate end goals. And those would be, I just want to highlight some of the comments. So that's where we're seeing a greater diversity of native species growing under the oak trees. We're seeing baby oak trees coming up. We might even be at a point someday where we're going to talk about using fire as a land management tool. The oak trees are adapted to fire. That's part of their ecology. And so we're just trying to stabilize. That's all we're trying to do. We're just trying to stop the bleeding to make those trees more stable for the long term. I want to comment on wayfinding and user communication. That's part of the councilor's motion. To add clear signage designating picnic areas versus the restoration areas, and then updating parks and digital resources. We have begun doing that with our first kind of year. We certainly have learned a lot. We have lots of improvements to make in our signage program. We are self-aware of that, and we're looking forward to improving in that area. I also want to highlight that when it comes to digital resources and updating our maps, that's something Parks struggles a little bit with from a resource perspective. So we are all for it. It may take us a little time to get there. And then my final kind of background slide here is kind of looking ahead, long term. What we have as just picnic tables scattered in a field is it's not accessible to everyone. And so as we look at a long-term capital improvement to basically formalize a picnic area, we're thinking about, we really got to think about what about people in wheelchairs, and what about people who need an accessible route and need certain amenities to make it possible for them to enjoy picnicking at the park. As well as we see a potential to establish a picnic shelter or a reservable area, or potentially a reservable picnic shelter. These are high in demand facilities in our park system, and we charge a fee to use them, so they have a cost recovery component to them. And then lastly, in this kind of southern west portion of the park, there's a historic playground that there's only just little remnants of it. It is part of the CLMP document, suggests that we should look at the feasibility of maybe bringing that back. It might look a little different, it might be a different kind of playground, but we would like an opportunity to have that feasibility assessment and that community discussion about potentially pairing a play area with a picnic area. So just summarize here, we support we're looking for your support for the modified mowing and management area 13C. That's the larger area shown up there, to continue to do the no mow in that area. And then in 13C, we're going to modify that management area to make room for some picnic areas. We're also looking for your support to move toward a more developed picnic site, kind of long term. We're not next year, but eventually that is safe for users in terms of being not directly under large oak tree limbs. And it'd be really handy if you could direct us to look into a capital improvement project. I just want to throw that in there while I'm here tonight. And that's the end of my slides. I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much. Appreciate all the work and preparation in a short time. Councilor Brown, go right ahead.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Mr. Romanek, thanks for the presentation. As always, I appreciate the work that you do when it comes to taking care of our 90-plus parks, so thank you. So with this motion, you mentioned that there is a discussion about moving tables versus the fence. Which one will come first?
The first thing that we're looking at is coming up with a way to bolt the tables down to the areas we identified they should be located. That could be drilling out a little kind of small hole in the ground and then pouring concrete just enough to bolt one spot of the picnic table down. That we're not exactly sure what we do, but it'd be something like that.
Got it. And that would be simply temporary, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so my follow-up question would be, and just tell me if I'm on the right page or if I'm not. When it comes to, you mentioned about going back to like the park used to be, I think it was back in the 50s. Would that be a part of the improvement plan, or it's completely separate?
So going back to the 50s, there was a historic playground that was placed in that area. And returning a play space there is definitely something that our management plan and park staff have been discussing. It may be a little bit different kind of playground. It could be a nature play space, or it could be manufactured play equipment. The discussion returning to the 50s is really focused on bringing back the play experience.
Got it. And one final question. So with this motion, Is this anything that your team would not be doing? Thank you for the smile.
I think it highlights the importance of our work here. I think that this is the first year of this management change, and so we're aware that we're going to have to adapt some of the things we're doing this year, that it's not going to be perfect on year one.
Got it. So I'll make sure I heard you clearly. I'll make sure I heard you clearly by asking you another question. So with this particular change, do we anticipate other parks are going to need some special mowing also, or no?
At this time, we only have this land management plan for this park and Deepwood Estates. There are certainly other parks out there that we're thinking about applying these kind of oak tree stabilization techniques to.
Got it. But if you were to build a fence around the trees where there are no tables, there is no playground, and you can't get in to where you could have a branch falling on you, would this go away?
I think we would only do that in certain areas. So it would be when we had a specific grouping of trees or one or two trees. We're not going to fence off an entire upper oak grove, but it's a management tool. You may see us identify certain trees that we're concerned about where we might add split rail fencing around. I'll give an example that's not bush. We have Morningside Park in South Salem. We're replacing the playground there, and as part of that project, we're actually installing picnic tables on a new paved plaza directly adjacent to the picnic table because users are habituated to pulling those picnic tables under an oak tree that we are concerned about. So that's a situation where we may come back and then fence off that singular oak tree, just so to make it perfectly clear that that is not a place to hang out under.
Got it. Madam Chair, I have one more?
Go right ahead.
So, so with what you just said, have we had any recent fires in that park? Because I know that's a concern from some of our constituents that they're afraid of fires. Have we had any fires there?
We have not.
In your, 10, 15, 20 years, there's been no fires over there?
I'm not aware of any grass fires at the park. I think one thing, on the fire concern, if a fire did ignite in this area, it would be a fast-moving grass fire. We have the chief of fire here, so I don't want to get too far into his world. However, that would be a relatively low-intensity fire. It would burn very quickly, and there's no ladder fuels, what it's called. There's no fuels that would bring that fire up into the canopy of the tree. So it would move really fast across the site and would be relatively low-intensity fire. And it would have ecological benefits to the oak trees.
Got it. Thank you. I yield the floor, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Gwynn. Oh.
Actually, Councilor Nordyke had her hand up.
Councilor Nordyke, you get to go first. It's hard in this position to see all the hands. So.
Your birthday present.
Well, my
Yes, there you
birthday
go.
was
Happy
closest
birthday.
in time, so I'm just kidding. You do know I'm all kidding, I hope. Anyway, so we received some written testimony tonight talking about the risk of wildfire. And when I look on Google Maps, Bush Park is centrally located. You've got Station 1 to the north. You've got Station 4 to the south. So I think it's worth pointing out the fact that it's not as if this is on the outskirts of town. You've got multiple fire stations that are minutes away from this park. Does that also mitigate wildfire risk, in your opinion?
Again, I'm not the chief of the fire, but I think that does help. It certainly does. And I think it would happen fairly quickly. I think it would just take off, it would burn, again, as a low-intensity fire really fast across the drying grass, and it may be well on its way to being extinguished by the time the fire department arrived.
And the other thing, again, I'm not a firefighter either, despite, the red tonight. The park receives constant visitors. If there was a fire in Bush Park, again, this is not some remote back alley on the edge of town. This place is surrounded by residents and people who work at the hospital in Willamette who come there on their lunch break. So, in my opinion, when there's plenty of people there, that means if there was a fire, someone would make a 911 call immediately. So I think that's worth pointing out. So I really appreciate Councilor Nishioka's motion. It appears that you've done everything you can to thread the needle here. Mr. Romanek, in your opinion, do you feel that this motion goes far enough to protect these oaks? Because I too am concerned about the health of our established white oaks and other established trees. Do you think that this plan, if it were passed by council, would provide adequate protection for the trees in question?
Yes, with one caveat. I think it's really important that we focus the no-mow to continue in area 13A, and as shown on this map, I know it's a little hard to read, the bigger area, but that smaller area in the actual corner, see, I'm going to attempt to use my cursor here. In this management zone, this is the historic picnic and playground area. I think there's opportunity in that area to apply this motion.
Okay, one other, if I may, Madam Chair. Yeah, and I also appreciate the conversation about designated picnic areas, nailing things, bolting things down, having picnic shelters maybe one day would be great. My own anecdotal observations of this park is that a lot of people come to this park to picnic from a variety of income levels. You know, there's a lot of families who may not be able to afford a private birthday party for a loved one at some fancy restaurant, catered, you know what I mean, the whole song and dance. But this, when you talk about accessibility, I think not just of our folks who have mobility needs, because there's a lot of seniors who live around this park, so I 100% would like to see more accessibility, but also socioeconomic accessibility. The park is really important to me, so I would want to be, for any of our parks, have a balance between reservable system, you know, paying a fee, and having a place where people can just have a picnic and they don't have to pay a fee. They can just enjoy the park. And I'm all in favor of ensuring that folks of all socioeconomic backgrounds and mobility levels can use one of our most popular parks in the city. So that's really more of a comment moving forward. I'm excited at the notion that we might one day have designated picnic shelters. You go to any state, well, maybe not every state park, but a lot of our state parks have those designated picnic shelters, and it makes it really clear where people are supposed to go and where they're not supposed to go, because the state is trying to protect its own, you know, priceless treasure trove of trees and other natural habitat. So I feel like this is threading the needle. I want to ensure that protection of our oaks is our highest priority, as indicated in the cultural management plan. And if you feel that this does it, that goes far with me. Thank you.
Whoops. Anyone else? Any questions?
Thanks, Rob, for your presentation. So I was curious, are there other parks that have a no-mow policy? And I'm speaking from an equity standpoint, so.
Currently, Bush's Pasture Park is the only one where we have the mow-no areas.
Oh, okay.
We certainly have identified other parks that we could apply some of the management practices we're doing here too.
Perfect. And I just want to say that as a child, back in the 70s, I lived on High Street and played on that play structure that from the 1950s. So it's very nostalgic to me too, and I love Bush Park, so thank you.
Councilor Matthews.
So I'm kind of like Councilor Nishioka. I've heard a few different kind of complaints from constituents about the long grass and the potential of fire risk and everything else, but I'm fairly new. I wasn't part of this council when it was, you know, the plan was implemented for the no-go or no-mow thing. And so I think Councilor Nishioka mentioned it earlier. It's my understanding a pilot program, or it was. How kind of are we measuring success or failure on the pilot program? Like, how do we know that this was successful?
I might push back on the thought as a pilot program. It's the first year we're doing it, okay. And the intention is for it to be a permanent change. Gotcha. So we know that in year one we might not get all the signage right. We might do something like not, alienate picnickers, which is not the intent. And so I think we know that at the end of the season we're going to sit down and say what went well, what did not go well. We're getting feedback although I will say up until recently the feedback was predominantly positive. So we will ourselves sit down and say, hey, what do we want to tweak next year as we kind of hone in this long-term change?
Okay. Can I ask another question? Sure. So I kind of with that, knowing it's not really a pilot program, it is kind of a long-term plan. And I know you mentioned kind of the oak savanna forest. So what is kind of the long-term goal? Because what I'm hearing is that these oak trees ultimately right now create a danger to be underneath them, right? But that our goal, it sounds like, is to have these granddad and grandma oak trees create miniature oak trees, right? And so as we kind of create that savanna forest, I guess, is it just to kind of have this quarantined off area that public are not allowed to go in perpetuity? Is that kind of the thought?
I appreciate the question. So one thing I want to highlight is that this management change came with no prescription that we asked the community to change their use of the park. We do realize it's a little different environment to picnic around tall grass, but we have not asked the community to stay out of anywhere. Specifically, we're actually kind of interested to see how social paths have generated through the tall grass. We can really see how people prefer to go through. So we know people are still walking through, people are still using this area of the park. So we're not discouraging use of the land. In terms of measuring success, I suppose I'm going back to this figure, which is in the CLMP. There are some long-term kind of ideal situation where we have over 60 species of natives growing in the area, where we have potentially having indigenous foods being harvested and used by people in our community, have cultural connection to that. And then potentially we're to the point where we're using fire to maintain the landscape. So that's kind of the end game. We have a long way to go till there. We're just starting, again, right now, just to try to, our urban forester has observed continual decline in the trees as he assesses them year to year, and we just see if we can push that needle the other direction.
So, and I just want to make sure I have a clear understanding. So 15 years down the road from now, the thought is that the trees that are there currently will be healthy enough that people will be able to be underneath them safely, that the new trees that are there will be safe for people to be under, that this fear of a branch falling and killing people ultimately will no longer be the concern in 15 years, so long as we don't touch these trees or the grass underneath it.
I don't think we have those concerns today. My point there is we have to be, with the bringing up sudden wind drop, is we have to be really careful when we're designating formal picnic spots that we're thinking about the target the limb has to hit. Mm-hmm. And so that maybe that pays, so again, that goes back to having unmanaged, the tables just moving all the time. Right. It would be a better situation for us where we can manage where those tables end up.
Okay, so the concern isn't right now that there's something's going to fall on someone, it's that if. Because, I mean, I was just concerned because it seemed like some of the report was based on the idea that in 2023 we had a branch fall and Los Angeles just had one. I just didn't want to give the impression that we have limbs ready to fall on people right now.
Limbs do come down from time to time in the park. And I'm not certified as a tree hazard assessor, but I know that part of what they do is they look at what are the targets that the tree could fall on, and that depends a lot. So if you're walking through, that's one kind of risk level. But if you're actually sitting at a table for a long period of time, that's quite different perspective.
Your exposure's longer.
Yeah, the exposure is a little different.
Gotcha. Okay.
And so I just wanted to draw a distinction there between kind of different uses.
Gotcha. Okay.
Councilor Tigan.
Yeah, I'll just share from my own personal experience managing public lands, not in the City of Salem, but on BLM managed land across the Mid-Willamette Valley. To your point that you just made there about the nature of the hazard, there's a very popular campground on the Quartzville corridor called Yellow Bottom, which people have been going to for decades and decades, but I think in the last 5 years when I was still there, they made the difficult decision to close that campground entirely, and it's not likely to ever reopen. And the trees just got too big. They're amazing if you walk through there. They're just these majestic Doug fir, but the risk of them and people sleeping under them for hours and hours at a time because it was a campground just became too much risk for the BLM to bear, because you invite people and then you let them sleep under those trees. In this case, I would imagine that if you were to designate and I think this is where the work goes in the future, and perhaps that CIP idea is it's not just a shelter that we can reserve and do some cost recovery, but a shelter over the trees in that picnic area would also provide shelter from a falling limb. And so when you invite people to a place, it raises your risk profile in a couple of different ways. So I personally walked through that area of 13C on Sunday. Had a very busy weekend, didn't realize we were going to be talking about that today. So I appreciate the way it looks. I understand that we'd want to invite that type of no-mow situation in that part of the park, but I do think we're also in a period right now where we're celebrating success in our park system. The new things that we've brought to our park system are so successful, kids are like breaking in to use them before they're ready. Like the skate park, I saw kids, they just want to be in the skate park. They want to be on the new futsal court. My own children said we should jump the fence and play pickleball at Highland before I was ready. So I think I'm saying all of that, when you build something, especially right in the middle of the city, people will come. And so I feel like confining this decision to 13C and that southwestern corner of the park makes great sense.
Thank you. Councilor Varney.
Thank you very much. Thanks for the information, and I've really appreciated this discussion. One thing it's pointed out to me is I don't think any of us are certified arborists. I mean, I'm probably the most biological person here. And I work with fish, but I also know the importance of the ecosystem and protecting things that we've had around for a long time. And so, to be honest with you, I appreciate the motion, but I don't feel that we're really qualified to be making this decision ourselves. I think this is a perfect decision to send down to to send to the Parks Board, which I served on for years. In fact, I was serving on it when we did this cultural landscape management plan. I mean, I think of our boards and commissions, and what is their role? Their role is to make recommendations on policy. And our Salem Parks and Rec Advisory Board, you know, it has people that are experts and experienced. There's a certified arborist. They have knowledge of our park system and and park users, and can think about other parks when they're developing a policy that this might apply to. I think of the Oak Grove, for example, in Brush College Park in West Salem. We have picnic tables under those oaks as well, and this might, no-mow and maybe a permanent picnic tables might be a good idea there as well. And the other thing with the Salem Parks Board is they take public comment, they decide what to do, and they take all this into consideration. They were stakeholders on the plan, and then they come up with a decision. And so I personally think this should go to SPRAB to either make the decision or make a recommendation if it has to come back to council, but I kind of feel that they could probably make the decision.
Thank you, Councilor Varney. I think, Councilor Brown, you had a question?
I do, just to follow up on that. I'm connecting the dots, not only in my own head, but maybe for folks who are watching at home. So that particular commission, there are arborists that are on it, the experts, right?
There is an arborist.
And this has not gone to them yet? This is brand new.
Well, the plan was to them, and then the no-mow started to take place, and then because it's in Ward 2, I got all of the happy emails.
Yes, you did.
And so I then began conversations, as I said, with Rob, and I, quite honestly, didn't even think about directing the communications to SCRAB or recommending that, because policy is in place, and so I'm simply trying to adjust a minor piece of the whole policy in a little tiny place. So I just thought that by making this motion, we'd have the opportunity as a council to say, we're asking the Parks Department to consider it. I'm basically saying, look at this and see if that's something that you can do. I'm not opposed to having them do that and then taking it to scrap, to the parks.
So just for clarification, so tonight's motion, even if it passes, it'll go to that particular team?
Well, let's
Nope.
just say that
She says no.
let's just say that we might take a break and we may craft an amended motion.
Okay, got it. Thank you, Madam Chair.
Yes, but I think because Mr. Romanak asked for some additional things that we might want to look at, I think what we might want to do is take a quick break and see if we should incorporate his recommendation to be included, then that we can craft it so it has those recommendations and then also going to the Parks Commission. So, again, I think we should just take a break. If there's not any other questions at this moment, then let's take, I'm going to call it a 8-minute break, and we'll meet again at 8:10, and we'll see how we can craft this motion. Looks like we're waiting for one counselor. Oh, let's see you run. Let's see you run. Okay. All right, continuing on our meeting. Thank you, everyone, for the break. All right. I think at this point, Councilor Varney, would you like to make an amended or substitute motion?
I would like to offer a substitute motion. I move that the Salem Parks and Recreation Advisory Board review the seasonal no-mow restoration program for the Upper Oak Grove at Bush's Pasture Park, and that the board provide a recommendation to the City Council for an annual no-mow program incorporating guidance provided in the park's cultural landscape management plan.
Second.
Thank you. Moved by Councilor Varney, seconded by Councilor Gwynn. To your motion.
Well, as I mentioned, I feel this is a perfect item to go in front of the Parks Advisory Board because of their knowledge of parks. Our urban forester attends the meetings, Rob attends the meetings, they have the people there, and I just think that that is the direction we should go because, for instance, with the Cultural Landscape Management Plan, they approved it, worked with it, and then it came to council. And so now that council has approved the plan, basically when this goes to SPRAB, they need to make a recommendation or a change supposedly to send to council. That makes sense. And I appreciate all the suggestions that you have in your discussion, and I see no reason why we can't pass those on to SPRAB to make sure they incorporate and take those into consideration rather than putting them all in the motion, but it's up to the group.
Thank you. Councilor Nordyke.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, Councilor Varney. Councilor Nishioka's motion, it's obvious she put a lot of thought and time into this, so I really commend you for that. as I said, it can be really hard to thread the needle sometimes when you're dealing with constituent concerns and competing interests. And we want our parks to get used as much as possible, but we also don't want them destroyed, right? So I feel that you really worked extremely hard and you should be commended for that. And if the substitute motion, and the question I have for you is for your substitute motion, I like a lot of the things that are mentioned in the discussion section that I would love to have SPRAB weigh in. For example, it says system-wide evaluation. Work with urban forestry to take a fresh look at our other parks with no mow/restoration areas and identify where a similar modified approach, designate picnic groves, mowed access paths, and define recreation areas, would make sense to improve public access and seasonal use. If time permits, please bring back recommendations for the next mowing season. So if that's a part of the motion, then I'm all for it, because this isn't the only area that might be a good candidate for a no-mow or a modified schedule. As you pointed out, you identified a park in your ward, and I'm sure we could all identify parks that there are over 90 of them. Like, it's a lot, and we're dedicating a lot of time to talk about one park out of 90. And we're not even talking about the granddaddy of them all, Minto Brown, which eats all these other parks for lunch in terms of size. I would be happy to support taking this to SPRAB, because this is the right time of year to give them time to put it on their agenda, receive notice and comment from all of the concerned constituents who came tonight, because we're almost at the end of mowing season. So they have time to come back and design results that make sense for this park and the other parks. So that's my long way of saying, are you intending in your motion to include the system-wide evaluation bullet point that's included in Councilor Nishioka's motion?
I actually liked all the suggestions.
Great.
Councilor Tigan.
Thank you. I'm going to vote no on this motion, and for the following reasons. I've gone through the resource plan, the cultural landscape management plan. The language that the SPRAB and then the City Council agreed on is really the language of policy choice, and it's a balancing act. And I feel like the motion that was before us in terms of where to mow, not to mow, whether to put a picnic table or not to put a picnic table, are the choices that were laid out in the management plan, and we're the policymaking body of the city, and we should make those decisions. I'm not sure what's on SPRAB's agendas for the next 6 months, but I really feel like we could make this decision tonight and put their work to use in other ways. So no offense to the motion maker, but from my own personal opinion, I just think we just make the decision and move on.
Councilor Gwynn.
Well, and I will just say, we have boards and commissions and advisory groups to help guide us in making these policy decisions. And I don't want any of them to feel discounted. So for that reason, I will be supporting your motion, because I do feel like SPRAB might have things to say that we should consider.
I will just simply say that, again, I was hoping that my motion was, as Councilor Nordyke said, threading the needle pretty well, taking the already brought to us policy from the Parks Advisory Board. And so I felt like I was trying to honor what they'd already given us, but just making a little request that the Parks Department take a look at sort of supporting the users of the park. So again, it was not anything to speak against the Parks Board not having the opportunity. They've already provided us the plan. So that was not my intent. I hope no one thinks that that was my intent. But anyway, so I'll just finish that. Really, my goal was to just improve the visitor experience in this just one small area, honoring still the indigenous importance and preserve the historic character. So that was my goal. Councilor Matthews, go ahead.
I'm really honestly kind of mixed on both parts because, as Councilor Teigen said, I do feel like this is a policy decision that we can make here and kind of end this tonight. And I also want to respect the fact that, you know, Councilor Nishioka is the councilor for Ward 2, and she is the one that receives the majority of the emails for that, for this issue, even though even in Ward 3, I've heard about this. And so I acknowledge that part, and I want to respect that. On the flip side, I also acknowledge the fact that we have these boards and commissions for a reason, and that's so that they can advise us on these things. And so, I really am very mixed on what to do here, because I do see both parts of the argument, and I don't know that even in my mind I've put together perfectly yet on where I'm feeling, because I agree with the motion that Councilor Nishioka's made and the idea of mowing that area to kind of bring back some of the vitality of the community to be able to use that. And so I agree with the motion. And so that's why I'm inclined to support the original motion, but I also, like Councilor Gwynn, don't want to ostracize our committees. And so I guess for me, if we're giving it back to the committee to be able to make that kind of assessment, I guess I would want it to go with the knowledge that I don't know where the rest of this council sits, but it's kind of with the suggestion of that. Not just to tell us what you want us to do, but this is kind of what I would like to see is happening. And so I guess I don't know if your motion currently does that or not. Is it a suggestion of implementing Councilor Nishioka's original motion, or is it just a suggestion to reassess it and let us know what's best?
It's not actually included in it, but I don't know what the process would be to amend it, change it, if someone wants to. But I did want to say that as liaison for the Parks Board, I do intend to bring this discussion and share it with the Parks Board, should this come back to them, just so I can fill them in on the process we went through.
I think I can find a way to support the motion or the amended motion, so long as I guess that knowledge kind of, I don't know how that best way to make that happen is, but you as the liaison can hopefully kind of handle that to give that Parks Board the knowledge that this is something that we're hearing from our constituents, in particular Councilor Nishioka being the counselor for that particular park. And so that would be the part that I guess I want to make sure gets really resonated with the Parks Board. So.
Councilor Varney.
I'm sorry. I was curious, what has the neighborhood association said about this? Have they taken a vote or something?
So no, the neighborhood association has not. Members of the association, not speaking on behalf of the group, have sent me several of them have sent me emails in support of it. So, but again, there was not, this was fairly quick, and there was not really opportunity, I guess, to say. And again, I'm trying to thread that needle with my motion, asking Parks to review it and have the time to take a look at it. So the suggestions that Rob had might get incorporated into what, if I move my motion, I might add that. So does that answer your question? Yeah. Seeing no more questions, do any of you want to hear the substitute motion again before we run the roll call, or are you okay with just going? Okay. Will the recorder please call the roll for the substitute motion?
Councilor Nordyke?
Aye.
Councilor Varney?
Aye.
Councilor Teigen?
Nay.
Councilor Nishioka?
Nay.
Councilor Matthews?
Aye.
Councilor Gwynn?
Aye.
Councilor Brown?
Aye.
Councilor Vang?
Nay.
And Mayor Julie Hoy is absent.
The motion passed. So, thank you. A substitute motion passed.
So a substitute motion replaces the main motion, so that's the action on this item.
More to come in the future, I would say. Thank you. All right. We are ready to move on. Yes. So Councilor Councilor Matthews, you get the honor of making your motion.
All right. So the motion I have here is I move to direct staff to provide a comprehensive overview of the city's procurement process.
Second.
And to your motion.
So I kind of gave a little preview of this, I guess unintentionally last meeting, and it really just comes down to partially just an education aspect. So again, being on council and being new, we kind of just went through all these fairly comprehensive trainings, at least the three of us that are newer, and well, four of us with Councilor Vang, have kind of gone through these comprehensive trainings. But I would say, as part of those trainings, I don't recall at least an in-depth part about procurement. And so part of what we end up having to approve regularly are the quarterly report or the monthly reports for the city manager and kind of what they're approving as far as what expenses we've had. And it came to my attention that almost everything we approve obviously is connected to an RFP. And so when I was contacted about a specific RFP and I started looking at that RFP, I noticed that the RFP was about a third of what the amount was that we were approving. And so when things are getting approved to us on these kind of one-year contracts, they're coming to us with a little bit of padding, which I understand the idea of some padding to be able to say, okay, we're going to put some padding in here in case the project goes over cost by a little bit, or we end up needing more screws or whatever we need, right? But it seemed to me that that particular one seemed somewhat large in the fact that it was 3 times the amount of the original RFP. And I don't know, personally, I don't know how that affects our budgeting. So are we budgeting for the amount that is getting proposed to us, even though the RFP was a third? Or are we just budgeting for the original RFP amount? And so, and these are truly questions I don't have the answer to. And so that's why I'm making the motion tonight, is because as I started kind of asking the questions, I wasn't really getting quite the knowledge I was looking for. And so I think this would be just a more comprehensive way for us all to know exactly better what we're approving and why we're approving the amounts we are. And so that's the reason for the motion.
Thank you. Questions? Councilor Brown.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Councilor Matthews, thank you for the motion. The question I have is probably for the CFO, but I'm not sure. How long will this overview take for the staff? You can just yell it out. No, I'm joking.
Good evening, Josh Eggleston, Chief Financial Officer. We could pull it together fairly quickly, I think, but I'd recommend October, perhaps as a month.
And during this particular process, this is only for the RFPs? This is only for just strictly procurement process, nothing else?
So there's a lot of other pieces of procurement that don't involve an RFP. So we would do a comprehensive overview.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Councilor Gwynn.
Would that be an information report or a presentation?
It would likely be an information report and a presentation.
Councilor Vang.
Thank you, Councilor. So if I had a question about procurement, could I have just come to city staff and had a one-on-one, like, overarching review of the procurement process?
Yes, absolutely. So we do a very short version in the city council orientation because we cover a lot and we lean into where the interest happens to be. But yeah, certainly we'd entertain any request for a one-on-one presentation, but we're happy to do comprehensive version. It's really not an issue.
Councilor Matthews.
So as I was kind of talking about in the original reason for the motion, part of the reasoning isn't just, again, I did kind of explore some of this prior to making the motion. And part of it was, again, so that we all have a clear understanding of why the RFPs are smaller, why the amounts are smaller on certain projects than what we're actually approving. And so I think it's important that not only us as counselors, but really the community as a whole understand that, so that it's well defined. And so it's not just about, I guess, me having the knowledge, but it's about all of us having the knowledge and almost possibly more of the community having the knowledge.
Councilor Tigan.
Yeah, thank you, Councilor Matthews, for making the motion. I certainly intend to vote yes for it. I think it's a good baseline of information for us as a group and also for the public, just as you state. I think I also might suggest talking about what our role as counselors are as well, in terms of the, I mean, I know we have sort of this blanket, you know, in the charter, we're not part of the procurement process, and that would be easy enough to say, but we still get a lot of questions about it, and so guidance from the city attorney or the city staff about, you know, what happens or what you should do if a, you know, constituent asks you about an RFP or something like that, I think would be good guidance for the group as well, too.
Would that be something that needs to be added or understood?
Dan Atchison, City Attorney. The role of council in the process is actually in the discussion section of the motion, so that would be part of it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I too will be supporting the motion, and thank you, Councilor Matthews, for bringing it. I really appreciate both special orders of business that were brought tonight. It really demonstrates a thoughtfulness about the nature of our work. And the procurement process is an utter mystery to most people, and where there is no information, it can breed suspicion and distrust. So everything we can do to create more transparency in the work that we do, and having the convenience of being able to refer people to a link with an information report, like, oh, you have a question as to how we do this? Well, we just happen to have covered this at our September blah-blah-blah session, and here's the link, knock yourself out. So I think it's a great idea. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Varney.
Thank you, Chair. No, I think it's, I support the motion. I think it's a great idea. I don't know much of anything about the procurement process, and I'm looking forward to learning not only for myself, but so that I have the ability to explain it to others. So I really appreciate this. Thank you.
So I too want to thank you for bringing the motion forward. When I first read it, I was thinking, well, as counselors, we need to not be involved in any contracts. And I, as Councilor Vang pointed out, thought, I wonder if this was something that could have been asked as an individual counselor, but then to your point, and others have also brought up the idea that all of us understand the process, then also, as Councilor Tigan stated, making sure that we, as counselors, understand that there's limitations, but we can explain the process to our constituents and those that question the process. And I know that we're aligned with the state and follow the rules. So I think all of those things will be helpful for us to have reviewed. And I agree with Councilor Gwynn that a presentation would be helpful, because the information reports are informative, but sometimes it doesn't give us really the opportunity to really take a closer look at it and hear about it. So a presentation would be appreciated. All right, if there's no more questions, it looks like we're ready for roll call on this motion.
Councilor Varney?
Aye.
Councilor Tigan?
Aye.
Councilor Matthews?
Aye.
Councilor Gwynn?
Aye.
Councilor Brown?
Aye.
Councilor Vang?
Aye.
Councilor Nordyke?
Aye.
Mayor Julie Hoy is absent. Councilor Nishioka?
Aye. And the motion passes. All right, now we are to the consent calendar item that was pulled by Councilor Gwynn. 3.3A is now 5.C. Councilor Gwynn, to your motion. I guess to read the motion and then to your motion, or once we have the second.
I move to authorize staff to explore and make a recommendation on implementing a CPACE program in the City of Salem.
Second.
It's been moved by Councilor Gwynn, seconded by Councilor Nordyke, and I see that Dana is coming up for the report and information.
Am I supposed to speak to it first?
Yeah, go. Do you want? Yes, go ahead and speak to why you're pulling it, and then we'll have the presentation.
Well, and I was just pulling it so that they could explain to us a little bit more about what this means. So, thank you.
Thank you. Dana Decline, Assistant Director of Urban Development. Thank you, Commissioner Gwynn, because it is kind of an exciting program, and it's nice to be able to just kind of explain it a little bit. We do have a presentation here, and hopefully it feels a little repetitive, so I might skip through a couple pages. But what we're really here today is to go over the Commercial Property Assessment Clean Energy Program, which is called CPACE, and gauge interest in whether you'd like to have staff explore whether the program should be made available for property owners and developers in Salem. And let's see here. So what is CPACE? CPACE is an innovative financing structure that enables owners and developers to obtain long-term financing for energy-efficient improvements and renewable energy retrofits, along with seismic upgrades. The projects can include energy, water, seismic improvements for real property. So CPACE is available in 32 states, along with the District of Columbia. The state of Oregon passed ORS 223.680 and 223.685 to authorize local governments to establish this property assessed financing program. Currently, in the state of Oregon, Multnomah County was the first county to adopt. The Prosper Portland, the Economic Development Agency, and the Urban Renewal Agency of the City of Portland actually administers that program for the county. And they've been around for about 10 years with CPACE. And then Washington County, Hood River, Deschutes County, as well as the city of Corvallis also have CPACE programs currently. The Columbia Pacific Economic Development District, which encompasses Clatsop, Columbia, and Tillamook County, are currently looking into CPACE. So we would have company if Salem decided to take a look at the program ourselves. So the CPACE structure, the legislature had to adopt it 2015 to allow us as local governments to voluntarily adopt or opt into the program. So that would be the question today is, do you want us to investigate opting in? So we're not opting in today. It allows developers to access capital from lenders who are utilizing the CPACE program. So this particular tool, and with this tool, the municipality has to put a benefit assessment lien on the property. So it ends up being above the primary lender, and there has to be an approval for that process to happen. It allows for the lender to provide, the lien is the length of the investment. So usually 25 to 30 years, so it's a long-term lease, a lien, and it's transferable with the property. So if you sell the property, the lien goes with it. Another way to look at this is the financing owner works with the lender. The financing is secured with a benefit lien. The owner pays the lender, and the lien provides the security for the capital provider and allows to stretch out the length of the payments. The city is not giving the funds, so this is not cash out for the city. It does require staff time, so that's a question that came up. CPACE benefits. If implemented, the CPACE can benefit the city in several ways. The program would assist developers to access capital that encourages the use of more resilient and energy-efficient building systems, thereby mitigating effects of the climate change through improvements in air quality, reduce energy costs, conserve energy and water, reduce greenhouse gas production, and in the case of seismic upgrades, mitigate life and safety risks due to earthquake. This product displaces the debt over the life of the improvements, which lowers the cost of capital. They can lend 100% of the cost of the improvements. Again, oftentimes the cost of the improvements are 25 to 30 years in the life of the improvements, and it can help with cash flow. Let me see if I got anything. And then finally, it saves money over time with operating expenses. Eligible properties: industrial, agricultural, commercial, yes.
Can I interrupt with a question?
You sure can.
On the last slide.
Last slide.
So when we talk about the benefits of the program, I guess two questions. The first is, when you say up here that displaces higher cost debt in the capital stack, so I'm thinking about if someone wanted to come to Salem and build a 5-bedroom or 5 apartments or more multi-unit building, does this program make it more attractive for them to build in Salem because they can take some portion of the cost of the structure that they're building and put it into this program, as opposed to getting a full standard lending package in order to create, like, is that a benefit here? Is it makes it more attractive to build housing in the city?
It can be. I think there's it creates the opportunity for them to access if it's appropriate for their project. They cannot access it if we don't do this.
Yeah,
so, yes.
and so like if they're just, I'm going to build a run-of-the-mill building, oh no, if you do these better things for seismic, or you do these better things for climate, or for, that's when you open up the possibility to operate under this.
Correct, exactly. Yeah.
So a benefit that I don't see here then is more housing within the city is a potential benefit.
Potentially, yes.
And just economic development. So this is an economic development opportunity for the city as well.
For sure, yes.
Okay, thank you.
Are we doing question there?
So, yeah, so how about if, yeah, so I think you're just about finished, so go ahead, and then we'll ask some questions.
saw this,
I know,
so-
I think it was that slide specific.
That was good. That was fine. So again, eligible properties: industrial, agricultural, commercial, multifamily, 5 or more units. So, single-family duplexes, those would not be eligible. Nonprofit and healthcare all can access these funds. Qualified costs. Again, it's EV charging. It's the envelope of the building. So, the insulation and the roofs and if you want to do a solar system, or retrofitting, seismic retrofit, HVAC upgrades, like anything that's going to help with the environmental effects of the building, those are eligible, along with permits and inspection fees, the pre-development for architectural to help you with that design work. So all of those expenses can be wrapped up into these funds. And then I think The process. It's, sorry, I got myself lost. There it is, last slide. So the process, if you were to decide to ask us to investigate, this is what the process would be ultimately. So the owner comes with an idea of a project. They have access to a lender who has the funds to do this program. They apply through the city. The city will review, the staff will review the application and make sure that it's qualified within our program guidelines. They, at the time of the closing of the loan, we do a lien on the property, a benefit lien, the special lien. That lien, then the lender pays for the improvements, project gets done, and the lender gets repaid over the life of the lien. So as long as everything goes as planned, we have upfront work. We don't have to do anything. If it ends up having to be a foreclosure, we would be involved with that piece because we're responsible for the lien. So there's some nuances that need to be investigated to talk about how do we ensure that the fees for the program covers our costs and we have staffing to do it. That would be something we would be investigating, along with connecting with our community partners, talking to banks, and assessing the program as a whole to see if the best fit for the city. So, questions?
Oh, we can, this is good? Okay, perfect. Got to make sure, you know, Councilor Tigan over there just throws those questions.
Okay, Councilor Brown, go ahead and ask your question.
So, two questions. The first one, the idea of this is great, so thank you for this. I appreciate it. Does it help if you, I mean, does it go back in time, retro, or no?
I believe there are some situations that it can.
Really?
Because we have I can't disclose who, but we do have an interested party that is wanting to use the funds, and we don't have it for them to do. So I'm going to have to assume once we get into the nitty-gritty, the answer might be yes, but I'm not going to answer that yet.
Got it. And one more question, Madam Chair, may I? So does the City of Salem, can we also participate in this, or just everybody else?
I don't think so. That would be a good question for our legal assessment when we get into that, because when they say who's eligible, it did not say governmental entities. So I don't know how we would be able to do that, but do you have an idea? Probably not.
Mr. City Attorney?
We'd have to look at what the program eligibility is, you know, in the statutes. So at this point, it's hard to say.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, and the only reason I ask is because it looks like there's a lot of great benefits that a city could benefit from. And we do a lot of building here, you know, new ideas, you know, especially when it comes to just greenhouse gases, right? There's a lot that I think the city can really benefit from this. So thank you.
Councilor Vang.
Thank you. So anytime a project comes up that's about renewable energy or clean energy, the first question that comes to mind is, how does this program or how does this particular agenda item help the city meet its CAP goals? Can you kind of clarify or outline how this particular program would help the city in that regard?
Yeah, well, Juliana Douglas did reach out to me before the meeting because she knew we were going to get this question. So she gave me that, you know, really there's a lot of overlapping. So EV charging stations, generating renewable energy, and developing energy storage solutions, all of those things are eligible expenses, and they're part of the climate action plan. So absolutely, and she even gave me a bunch of the specific EN08 and EN14, EN21, EN23, and EN27, all are direct connections, according to Juliana. So, and she's the expert of the climate action plan, so.
Thank you.
All right, Councilor Nordyke.
Thank you, and don't get whiplash turning your head around. It's not conducive, so I sympathize with your position. I mean, I used to love watching Councilor Matthews' reactions during council meetings. Now I have no idea, which means he's rolling his eyes every time I speak, for sure. I'm just kidding. Walk me through a real-world example. So your slide deck shows solar on a building. So I'm just kind of curious, to me it helps me to understand real-world examples. So the owner has an idea, I want to put solar on top of my building. They get a quote, let's say it's $50,000 for them to put solar on the building. I saw your flow chart here, but I'm just wondering, where does the financial benefit come to the owner if it's a hypothetical $50,000 project to put solar on their building?
Yeah, so they have a plan, they go to a lender like you would normally, right? This lender has access to this CPACE program, and once they apply through us and they go to they want to close the loan like a normal loan, we have the lien product, and then that's when the money goes to it's purchasing the project, right? So they're going to develop the project, the cash from the loan goes into the development, and then they have to pay back the loan like they would any other loan, just it's stretched out, right, over the life of the improvement instead of being a 5-year or a bigger payment.
Okay, so in other words, the savings to the property owner comes to the fact that they don't have to pay it back immediately, they can stretch out their payments. Yeah. So a business that might not be able to afford throwing $15,000 down today, right, or whatever it is, right? Right. I'm just playing with numbers here.
Yeah.
So it's about being able to spread out over time, have smaller payments. That's the financial benefit to the private owner.
Right, and the fact that they're doing investment to their property that is less operating costs overall. So yeah, so it encourages them to do that work.
All right, Councilor Gwen, go right ahead.
Thank you. First, I wanted to apologize to Councilor Tigan.
Don't worry, my birthday's not till April.
I'll make sure to get you a card and a cookie. But I truly apologize. So I was trying to wrap my head around to where the city comes into play and why. Mm-hmm. And I think you just answered it with Councilor Nordyke, because initially I was thinking, if the contractor or developer comes with an idea, they secure their own financing, then why mm-hmm. are we involved? But you just explained it, so I really just needed to apologize.
Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Councilor Matthews.
I also need to apologize, mainly because I started this presentation with 0 questions, and I've somehow or another accumulated 5, and so I'll make them very brief. So, first question. So, is the lien that is placed on this? Let's assume there's already a mortgage on the property. Are we in second position then, or this lien on second? So it's like the IRS. We go above.
So you have to get approval from the primary lender to have it go above. So that is a part of the process that it does have to occur.
Okay.
And for many reasons they say yes, and sometimes they'll say no.
For sure.
So.
And then is there an appraisal done to make sure that we aren't basically giving this loan to anything? I mean, I guess if we're in first position, we're probably in a much better situation to not have this happen. But is there any type of assessment done to ensure that we're not going to loan on something that has lesser value than what we're loaning?
We're not loaning anything.
Or that is being loaned, I suppose. That's
the lender's responsibility.
Okay.
We have to make sure that it's eligible work for our program.
For the program.
That's the part that, yeah.
And then is there no interest rate for the program?
They negotiate the interest rate.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then, I apologize for all the questions again. Does this work in tandem with Energy Trust of Oregon? Because I know Energy Trust of Oregon has their own incentives for commercial buildings and solar.
I'm going to have to say yes. And the reason why I say that is because I know that Energy Trust of Oregon is a partner in Multnomah County's program. So I can't imagine them doing something that's not linked to their programming.
Okay. Last question. So you mentioned there's a staff time obviously associated with this, because we obviously have to approve the plans get submitted. We have to approve it whether it is eligible or not. So do we know what that cost is going to be, and is there a way that we kind of get our cost paid back over the life of that loan?
So we don't know yet. We're going to need to do a little bit of detailing of how we're going to run the program. Prosper Portland they go deep in the weeds. Most of the counties do not, and I think there's probably somewhere in the middle that's appropriate. There's a big range of differences between what the fees of many of the counties are, and then the difference for Multnomah County. Multnomah County's fee is 2% of the loan, which can be very significant, probably more than is necessary for managing the program. But $2,500, which is the lowest fee that I saw, I don't think is enough. So there's somewhere in the middle, and we're going to have to assess that to make sure that we have funding to be able to sustain the work.
Got it.
Councilor Gwynn.
I just wanted to say thank you so much for your presentation. I did a little investigation myself today just to kind of understand the program, but so often we have things like that, these come to us in a consent agenda, and it just kind of slides through, and so I appreciate you taking the time to explain that to us, and yeah, I'm definitely going to support it.
Thank you. Councilor Brown.
Thanks, Madam Chair. So kind of going back to what I was asking earlier. So the reason I asked the question, if you can do this retro or even the city can benefit, because obviously we're going through some seismic changes on the building that's over there, right? Yes, make sure I'm in the point in the right direction. And they had said there's a variety of things that they can and cannot do. And so I'm wondering, as you go back and your team works on this, can the city itself benefit from this particular program? Because obviously there's a lot of things happening here that I think that we can lean into, especially when it comes to clean energy. So having said that, what do you think at the end of the day, and I think this is going to come back to something Councilor Matthews was alluding to earlier, we do not come out of pocket for anything for the city. Is that correct?
Correct.
So the benefits to this are endless?
Well, people still have to pay back their loan. So, you know, I think it's not free for a developer. They still have to pay back their loan. I think there's some really good benefits for the city getting these kind of investments, you know, actively producing these kind of buildings. But I think the risk is the thing that we need to do the assessment on to ensure that we manage the risk for the city, managing city staff and ensuring we understand the full process.
All right. Well, I want to say thank you in advance for you and your team going back and, you know, finding out all these questions we're asking. And Councilor Gwynn, thank you for pulling this. We really appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'll ask a couple questions. I am trying to understand, I think it was I'm sorry, did you want to say anything? I think it was asked, but I'm not sure I understood the answer. It seems that this is on only new development. So let's say, and again, to what Councilor Nordyke was asking, let's say I wanted to do something to my home, and I went to the bank and said, hey, I want to put solar panels on, or I want to put something in that fits into this program, and they say, okay, and then I come to the city, and that's something that individuals can do in this program, or again, I'm just trying to understand who it's geared for.
Again, we cannot do single family.
Okay.
So it's only for multifamily 5 or more, or commercial industrial property. Yeah.
Thank you. Again, I'll just make a statement now. It really is helping us meet our, by having this program, it helps us meet our climate action goals, and that we, again, can become more of a resilient city within a resilient state so that we can be self-sufficient. So thank you. Darn it, because we just did some retrofitting for a seismic, so I was hoping I could do something. If there's no more questions, will the recorder please call the roll?
Councilor Tigan?
Aye.
Councilor Nishioka?
Aye.
Councilor Matthews?
Aye.
Councilor Gwynn?
Aye.
Councilor Brown?
Aye.
Councilor Vang?
Aye.
Councilor Nordyke?
Aye.
Councilor Varney?
Aye.
And Mayor Julie Hoy is absent.
And the motion passes. Thank you very much. And again, thank you, Councilor, for pulling that. And so we had the opportunity to ask our questions. Okay, we are to information reports. And because I may end up getting whiplash, if I don't see any hands going up, please help me see others. So I will read just the caption of it. And if someone does have a question, please note that you're wanting to ask. 6A, Planning Administration Decision, a replat to reconfigure 4 lots into 3 lots, and it was approved. Councilor Tigan.
Yes, I'm not sure if our planning administrator is here this evening. Do you have, Director Rutherford, do you have any specific knowledge of this particular one? Because it is sort of within the downtown core. It's about replatting 3 parking lots between Cottage and Chemeketa and Center, I believe.
So I don't have any information on those projects, but we can follow up with you.
Okay, great. Thank you.
All right. 6B, Planning Administrator Decision, Development of a new multifamily complex and mixed-use retail building approved.
Me.
Councilor Brown.
And this is also for the director. The address for this, can we find that out later? I know it only had, is it 4885 Portland Road? That's where the tree is?
We'll follow up with you.
Okay, thank you.
6C, purchases approved administratively from June 1, 2025 through June 30th, 2025. I'm going to look straight over to Matthews. All right, thank you. 6D, progress on investigation of past use of aqueous forming foam, also called the firefighter foam, and AFFF containing PFAS, and its impacts at Salem-Willamette Valley Airport and Salem Fire Station 6. And 6E, end of season report summarizing the city's legislative activities during the 2025 session of the Oregon State Legislative and Federal Legislative Update. And that completes the information. We have no ordinances. We have no first readings, we have no second readings, and we are now to public comment that is not on our agenda, and we do have 3 people. Thank you for your patience. And again, I will call you up. Please give us your address or your ward, and you will have 3 minutes. And the people that are speaking, I'll just read the 3 names so you'll know your lineup. Evelyn Brose, Manny Martinez, and Jackie Roche. So if Evelyn is still here.
Good evening, City Council members. I'm Evelyn Brose. I want to let you know before I start, I'm talking about homelessness, but right now I want to let you know I have a 3% chance to be where I am at today. I had brain surgery, they removed my memory, and a neurosurgeon saw me, a student. he was shocked to see me. He asked me a bunch of questions, and he says, no way, I'm going to go see how they did the brain surgery because you have a 3% chance to be where you're at today. So I want to let you know that 90%, 97% I shouldn't be where I'm at today. So I was homeless when I first came to Oregon, and I was living in my car and all that. I told you that last week. But I also want to let you know I understand a lot about homelessness. There are two different types of homeless people. There is homeless who do not want to live inside anymore. They prefer living outside. And then there's people who want a place to live but don't have a place. So there's two categories, the homeless and the houseless. The homeless want to stay outside and be homeless. The houseless are people who don't have a place but want a place to live. So we have homeless people and we have houseless people. So for the houseless people, we will talk about the houseless people instead of the homeless people. So if we could start saying houseless instead of homeless, that would be greatly appreciated. Have you seen houseless people in the wheelchairs with a missing leg or a foot? One of the main reasons homeless people are missing a part of their foot or their leg is because they were frostbitten in their sleep. They drink because they want to feel warm, but their warm is not their body temperature. The body temperature is going down, so they don't know when they're sleeping, and when they wake up, they can't move their foot. And then they go to the hospital, and all of a sudden, they lose their foot because it's frostbitten. So I also want to let you know, have you ever had a shoe or a sock? You couldn't find a pair of socks, it's got lost in the wash, or a pair of shoes that you couldn't find. You throw it away. There's a lot of people who are homeless or not who have one foot. And those people would have loved to have your other shoe that you would have tossed away because you couldn't find the pair, or the sock you could. And there's no place you would know where they would give you just one shoe or one sock. You have to buy the pair of shoes where you only have one foot, or you have to buy a pair of socks and you have two socks for one foot. So that's another thing. And when I volunteered at Closed Closet, there was a woman who came in. She was couch surfing. I went to college. I told her, I says, you need to go to college. She said, I can't. She said, I don't have a place. I says, rent a place. I don't have money. I says, take your financial aid, take the financial aid money, pay 3 months worth of your rent, and then buy everything you need, and with your financial aid. And then you have your computer.
Evelyn, thank you. Your time is up. Does anyone have any questions? Thank you very much. Appreciate your information. Thank you. And Manny?
Good evening. My name is Manny Martinez, and I live in Ward 2. I'm here to testify about public safety. There are many layers to the homeless crisis in Salem, but I'd like to speak specifically about those on our streets that are suffering from addiction. I'm a recovering alcoholic with over 6 years of sobriety, and I'm an extreme case. I nearly lost my life to alcoholism multiple times. The practice of a well-known 12-step recovery program saved my life. I want to share some things with the council that you might not understand about addiction. These are unpopular truths, but true nonetheless. Active addicts will often make the decision to walk away from family, friends, and careers in order to support their addiction. Many will choose to live on the street rather than seek help. There are countless stories like this. For these individuals, affordable housing is not the issue. Active addicts will lie in order to support their addiction. When you visit addicted people living on the street, they will tell you whatever they need to tell you to support their addiction. I know you all have good intentions, but the fact that some of you will immediately believe whatever story an addict on the street tells you is very naive. Active addicts are master manipulators. They will tell you whatever will garner them the most sympathy, and even better if it results in money to enable their addiction. Active addicts living on the streets are severe cases, and severe addicts don't begin to recover until faced with life and death health issues, or they're forced through the criminal justice system. I've sat in many recovery meetings where recovering addicts express gratitude to the criminal justice system for forcing them into recovery and thus saving their lives. Active addicts commit crimes in order to support their addictions. The failure to enforce the law, even for nuisance crimes, which is a term that I hate, by the way, only enables the active addict and thus prolongs their suffering. What you don't seem to understand is that by infantilizing the addicts living on the streets, you're actually causing them more harm and enabling them. A tougher law enforcement approach, including a total ban on public camping, is actually the compassionate thing to do. I agree that we need to have the necessary resources and shelters in place, but then we must insist with the full force of the law that these individuals receive the help that they so desperately need. Thereafter, they will need to be held accountable for their participation in their own recovery. True compassion is to demand more of these people because we see them as human beings, because we want them to get better. But we need to be honest about the nature of addiction and the destructive behaviors that it causes. We must raise our standards as a city to no longer allow these destructive behaviors on our streets. This is the only way to solve this problem, and that's the truth. Thank you.
Thank you. And then Jackie.
Hello, I'm going to end on a happy note, an encouraging note. So my name is Jackie Roche, like the jewelry, not the cockroach. So I just have fun with that one. So you guys will never forget. I live in Ward 4, and I want to take this time to share about a nonprofit called Roofing It Forward. The mission of this organization, of which I am a board member on, is to provide safe and stable roofs for vulnerable individuals and families in our community who have faced financial hardships, grown up in foster homes, or are single-parent households, with the intention of involving the community to nominate deserving recipients. In April, our community members nominated individuals to receive this free roof, and after doing interviews and on-site visits, our organization awarded our very first roof to Angie Herman, a single mom who has a powerful story of resilience and self-improvement despite her domestic abuse situation. When she bought our house with her ex-husband, it was a fixer-upper, and her then-husband was to repair it, including her roof. Years later, after restraining orders and scared for her safety, she found herself in a situation that she cannot afford this expensive repair. She has found herself finally able to get homeowners insurance with the fourth company after the previous 3 dropped her because of the condition of her roof. This is scary to think that you might not have any insurance to protect your investment when you can't afford to fix the problem that isn't allowing you to get the insurance in the first place. Throughout her powerful story, she sought out a community that supports other parents in situations like hers, and she has now started giving back and serving as a leader in her community. The reason I want to share about this is because today was the first day of the re-roof. This was a 3-layer tear-off with a full resheet. We are finishing it up tomorrow. I want to bring special attention to the founder of this nonprofit, Sarah Clintworth, who, being in the roofing industry for over 17 years, is now the owner of her own roofing company and saw a need for such a nonprofit to exist. Throughout time, she built connections with those who also share a passion in serving those who are in need and have put their resources towards such an endeavor. The following companies have given their time and resources to make this happen: Solid Roofing Northwest, Empire Roofing, Owens Corning, QXO, formerly known as Beacon, ABC Supply, AirVent, Miller's Barbecue, Willamette Valley Bank, Jars of Clay Property Management, Jackie's Natural Cleaning. And to see the story of the project or to learn how to give and be involved, follow us on social media under Roofing It Forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Roche. All right. Our meeting is adjourned.